but it's getting there now, isn't it?
I saw a video on TikTok and I was thinking of you. Do you know if you paint your chicken coop wire black, it goes invisible?
That's right, I've seen that. How cool is that? Yeah, do you know what I need? This is what I have to do today. Me and Lee were sitting down yesterday. Chickens, right, they do go everywhere.
Do they?
We have, like, I'm getting it at home, this chicken coop at the back.
Did you ever get Greg the cock?
No. Lee wants wee chicks, but this is what I need to do, right? Because the chickens are at the back door and they're pooping everywhere. Chicken poop, and then you take the chicken poop into the house, which is not going down so good. So I need to get chicken fence, something that's not going to get... I'll have to pen them.
Jump over it.
See, I have an 18-foot pen, right? But we let them out. They're free range. They can run about. They can do their thing. Now, I know there's a poultry thing on as well.
Unless you tie a fox at the back door.
No, we have a cat and he's
nonplussed.
No, he's not. He doesn't like chicken. He's vegetarian. She actually. But yeah, so I need to get chicken wire mesh.
It sounds to me like really the chickens have taken over and you are living with the chickens.
Yeah, they're ruling the roost. They are
ruling the roost.
No, but they are.
But that is.
Do you know? But I need to like they have half an acre to roam about, and they love the back street, the back door, and you step out and you're stepping on poop.
Oh.
Do you know?
Well, anyway, I'm sure you'll come to a.
You're solving all my problems today.
100%.
Good man.
Right, we'll get to the bottom of that. How to keep them from the back door humanely.
Yes, of course.
Lee,
right.
have a great day. See you tomorrow, which will
Thanks,
be Friday. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show at 9 o'clock. Let's go over to Donald Kavanagh for a news update.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Planning permission has been conditionally granted for the construction of a shop and fuel forecourt at the site of the Creaslet tragedy. 10 lives were lost in October 2022 after an explosion. The application was first made by Vivo Shell Limited on the 18th of April last year. There's been ongoing criticism from the families of the victims who are calling for the site to be developed as a memorial garden. The current plan does propose a memorial garden and a light sculpture, but the families say that is not enough. 10 conditions need to be met to see the current site demolished and a new commercial building constructed, which will also include a post office, deli and off-licence. The Seanad has been told that Donegal's exclusion from the list of surgical hubs being developed across the country is a missed opportunity. Senator Manus Boyle was speaking after the first of 6 hubs announced in 2023 was opened in Dublin last week. Of the 6 hubs, 2 are in Dublin, with 1 each in Galway, Limerick, Cork and Waterford. Seanad leader Sean Kine told Senator Manus Boyle his point was a valid one and suggested he table a commencement debate under which the minister would come to the Seanad to hear the motion.
Might be something that is worthy of putting it down, a commencement debate on directly with Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeill, and talk about obviously the absence and the long journeys. I know under the cancer strategy, for example, there's a lot of people coming to Galway, which is a long journey, but certainly for the work that would take place in surgical hubs, which is more minor procedures, I think it would make sense that such a facility would be provided in the northwest.
Ancient remains found in Northern Ireland are believed to belong to a young woman who lived around 2,000 years ago. Research carried out on the Ballymacombs Moor woman in Balahi, County Derry in 2023 show she was aged between 13 and 17. The 5'6" woman lived during the Iron Age. And Garda recruits won't have to undergo such severe fitness tests in the future. The force is relaxing the rules to encourage more young people to join. With more, here's Stephanie Rowan.
There's currently a big push to increase Garda numbers, but one thing stopping this is the fitness test. Many people are failing it, so Garda management has decided to relax the rules according to the Irish Times. 162 out of 520 candidates didn't pass it last year. Sit-ups and push-ups are now being removed, while the bleep test is going to be made easier. The fitness test will also be standardised instead of having different versions for men and women and older and younger candidates.
Well, the forecast after a damp and blustery start, sunny spells and scattered showers will be the order of the day, with the showers becoming less frequent by this evening. Mostly dry weather expected by then. Top temperatures this afternoon 11 to 13 degrees Celsius in fresh and gusty southwest winds. It'll become mostly dry early tonight, but rain will spread from the south during the night with some heavy falls overnight. The possibility of some spot flooding. Windy tonight with fresh to strong southerly winds. Lowest overnight temperatures 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. That's Highland Radio News. Back with news again at 10 o'clock.
Neil's gym was doing well, but he knew it could be doing even better. When he discovered Direct Mail Navigator from An Post Commerce, it was like a weight was lifted. With Direct Mail Navigator, you can build the right in-home advertising campaign for your business, printed and delivered within 3 working days. See how Direct Mail can help your business punch above its weight, just like Neil did. Visit onpost.com/direct mail and get out there today. On Post Commerce, a world closer. T's and C's apply.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It is 3 minutes past 9 on this Thursday, the 20th of February 2025. You're very welcome along to today's edition of the 9 till Noon Show. And we have a whole range of topics and issues and subjects to cover over the next 3 hours, and we want you involved in the conversation throughout, and indeed sparking your own if there's something you want us to talk about. 086 60 25,000, that's that familiar number that you can WhatsApp and text from wherever you are. If you're outside the Republic, 003538 60 25,000. If you prefer to give us a call, Caroline and Shannon taking your calls on 07491 25,000. And if email is your thing, then it's comments@highlandradio.com. That'll get us. And just to remind you once again, you can watch the show live on our Facebook page, all of our Facebook pages, in fact, and on the X platform. And if you want to watch the show on your big screen, your smart TV, your Fire Stick at home, the YouTube app there is available for you, Highland Radio Ireland. Right, going on to the newspapers, and we'll start with the Tyrconnell Tribune. It's been confirmed that plans to build a new supermarket and filling station in Creeslough have been approved by Donegal County Council. The development on the site of the tragic events of October 7th, 2022, where 10 people lost their lives in an explosion, was granted planning permission by the council on Wednesday after a process lasting several months. It allows Vivo Shell Limited to demolish the existing building and allow the erection of a new building which will incorporate a Class 1 commercial building, a shop, post office, off-licence store in Delhi. It also includes toilets and also a space for a memorial garden at the location in Creeslough. Now, the council, I would imagine, in considering an application like this, can only consider planning matters, i.e., what's the access into the road like? Does it overlook other houses? Does it block a view? I don't think the process allows for the views of those who, well, maybe it does, I don't know, but my understanding is I'm not sure it allows for the views of those who maybe think that it shouldn't be located on this site because of the tragedy that occurred there. We'll tease all that out. I do know there are a number of families upset at the decision, and if there are other families that perhaps aren't as upset by the decision, we're happy to hear from them as well. We are reaching out, and others have reached into us. There is a little bit of upset, when I say a little bit, that I do know some of the families were trying to get this information yesterday. It wasn't available yesterday. And such is the nature of just how this paper is published. Of course, it is a Thursday paper, so they published in the knowledge that by the time the paper was purchased by the majority, the decision would have been made public at that point. But there are those that, because it went to press yesterday afternoon, I presume there are those that learnt the information in the paper, and they're upset with the council. The council, they believe, should have notified them in advance so that they learnt it directly from the council first. There's a lot in there. I think primarily the issue is that many are opposed to this development. Maybe you're in favour of it, maybe you're opposed to it, maybe you're not directly affected and you want to have a view. Get in touch with us, 086 60 25,000. We certainly want to platform opinions of all different, coming from all different directions. So let us know what you think, 086 60 25,000. The Derry People Donegal News this morning. A Donegal cancer advocate has warned Letterkenny University Hospital must be upgraded in the wake of a damning report revealing that Ireland has the second highest rate of new diagnoses in the European Union. LUH is currently a Model 3 hospital, but Betty Holmes insists it must be advanced to a Model 4 in light of the report's findings. A Model 4 hospital is larger in size in terms of bed numbers and would provide a wider range of subspecialities. The report, which examined cancer incidence rates across EU countries, highlighted the disparity in access to diagnostics, with individuals in deprived regions like the Northwest facing higher risks of mortality due to limited healthcare resources. Ms Holmes, who is chair of DACC, expressed concern over the findings, stating that the report underscores the need for equitable cancer care in the country. The Derry News' lead story this morning. Derry's Guildhall hosted an event to raise awareness around harmful money lending practices in the city. The event was arranged by the Foyle Network Foundation in partnership with Apex Housing Association, Community Restorative Justice, Skye Community Hub, 3 city-based credit unions as well, and the PSNI. Okay, you can read more about that if you wish there. A remarkable intervention from Donald Trump yesterday, reported in all of the papers, and it's on the front of the Irish Times this morning, in that, in terms of what he has to say, he doesn't hold back. He called the Ukrainian President Zelensky a dictator. And this caused massive ripples around the world, to the point where other world leaders didn't really know quite how to respond to it. He said that money was going missing in the country, that Zelensky was a dictator, that it was his fault that this war happened, that if he didn't cop himself on, that he'd lose all of his country. It was really, really, really a very damning statement. But I'll read the newspaper coverage of it this morning. The US President Donald Trump called Ukrainian counterpart Vladimir Zelensky a dictator who could soon lose his country as relations between the leaders soured after Kyiv was excluded from US-Russia talks, on issues including the war in Ukraine. Mr. Trump launched a furious diatribe against Mr. Zelensky after the Ukrainian leader accused him of parroting Kremlin disinformation by questioning his legitimacy and saying Kyiv would never have started a war that was in reality caused by a full-scale Russian invasion in 2022, following 8 years of armed aggression in eastern Ukraine and Crimea. A dictator without elections, Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left in the meantime. We are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do, the US president wrote on social media. So as I say, really quite a remarkable statement from him. So we'll see how that all pans out. This is an issue that's of significant importance here. It's covered in the Irish Daily Mail. New guidelines on rural housing will help young couples to build a home on their own land, the Taoiseach has said. Successive governments have resisted expert calls to reduce one-off housing in rural areas, which amount for a fifth of all homes built in the state. Critics argue such developments create difficulties for water, broadband and electricity connections and hinder efforts to expand public transport in rural areas. But in the Dáil yesterday, independent TD Danny Healy-Rae said many people were being denied planning permission in respect of sites at their parents' home, he said. They're being deprived because of something called urban-generated pressure. Urban to mean town or village. These people never lived in a town or village. They lived in their parents' house in the country. Why are they being disallowed planning permission? These people will cost the government nothing. They want to build the houses themselves, and all they're asking for is the green light, which is along the lines of what we hear in this programme quite regularly. Well, responding, Taoiseach Micheál Martin said the government is looking at existing guidelines for young couples seeking to build in rural Ireland. The Fianna Fáil leader said, regarding the deputy's point about people in rural Ireland who can develop housing on their own land or their parents' land, we have to look at existing guidelines to facilitate capacity for young couples in particular to do that. Now, obviously, one way you could do that is to allow people build on the N56, for an example, which meanders right around Donegal. So I suppose the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, what will actually come of that. We talked yesterday about plans to allow people to build modular homes in their backyards and what that might or might not do, I suppose, to ease housing crises, whether or not you'd want someone even really close to you living in your backyard. It remains to be seen. But opposition TDs seem quite opposed to this. They don't want them to be rented out, so they don't want these popping up in people's backyards and then being rented to other people. I'll read more about it before commenting. Opposition TDs have asked the government to for clear rules that will ban cabin-style homes in back gardens from being widely rented out. Minister of State John Cummings wants to give planning exemptions to cabin-style homes in an attempt to provide more housing options. While the minister said the purpose of the new plan is to not provide more rental accommodation, it's not yet clear how renting out cabin-style homes will be banned. Currently, planning permission is not needed for extensions at the back of homes that are 40 square metres in size or less and attached to the house. Mr Cummings wants to extend this to detached properties in back gardens, but the opposition has said clear provision should be put in place to stop people from renting out small living units and charging thousands of euro a month. I don't see this as a rental measure. I see it as facilitating that intergenerational movement to right size within their own community. When asked if owners will be able to rent a cabin to others outside the family, he said all of these matters are something that will have to be discussed as part of the public consultation that we will have in relation to this. Sinn Féin's Owen O'Brien said there should be clear regulations on the use of properties and these rules enforced. We need to ensure that any flexibility for extended family members does not extend to use of exempted development for private rental stock. So that's Sinn Féin's position in it. It might go out to public consultation. I'm sure it might. Let's do it now. Firstly, you know, are you in favour of easing of planning regulations in this regard? And do you agree or disagree with Sinn Féin that they shouldn't be allowed to be rented? I mean, if I put one in my backyard, which I wouldn't or couldn't, put one in my backyard, and there's a local young couple or old couple for that matter, and they've got nowhere to live, and I say, well, you can rent my cabin here, and they have a safe, secure, warm roof over their head, is that what Sinn Féin are opposing, or is it something else? Is that not how people get accommodation that could help? I don't know. What do you think? Do you agree with the government's plans? What do you think about Sinn Féin suggesting that they shouldn't be allowed to be rented to people outside of the family circle? I'll read more on that to try and get the logic of that myself. The Irish Farmers Journal this morning. The European Commission plans for post-2027 CAP reforms could prove to be the most radical shake-up of farm income supports in decades, as funding is to be directed to the farmers who need it most, which could be good for Donegal farmers. A fairer and better targeted distribution of CAP funding will be the Commission's focus when drawing up proposals for the next CAP, with support to be aimed at those actively producing food and preserving the environment. Small farms, young farmers, mixed farms, new entrants, and those farming in areas of natural constraint have been identified as those in need of targeted additional supports. I think we tick a few boxes at least in that regard in this part of the world. We've been talking and will continue to talk about the difficulty some families are facing in really, I suppose, exercising the right of their child to an education. We spoke quite extensively yesterday to a number of parents who are unhappy, first, that there aren't places for their children with very complex needs, even though we've just invested an awful lot of money in the new Little Angel schools. But there's other issues in this same space. And reading in the Irish Daily Mirror this morning, over 14,200 assessments of needs for children with a disability are now overdue, Stark new figures have revealed. It marks a 60% increase in the number of children awaiting an appointment compared to the same period last year. The HSE also confirmed it did not even manage to complete half of the applications for assessment that it received last year. The figures were released to the Social Democrats from the HSE following a parliamentary question. In the Dáil, the party leader, the party's deputy leader that's the SDs, isn't it? Cian O'Callaghan said that the state was failing the childcare, the children and their families at a crucial part of their life. And AON is an assessment carried out by the HSE for children or young people with a disability. The assessment identifies a child's health needs and what health services are needed to meet the child's needs. Once an application is made, the law states a child must be assessed within 6 months, but 14,200 assessments still await. RTE hasn't been in the press for a while. They are again today, though, in the Sun. Apparently 1 in 6 RTE staff are bosses, which is really quite remarkable. Too many chiefs and not enough Indians. I'm not sure if that's an outdated phrase anymore, but it's one that rings true here. 1 in 6 RTE staff are bosses and got a pay rise last year, despite the station being skint. RTE's Director General, Kevin Backhurst, made the admission after holding a meeting in December. A briefing document sent to employees said managers got a pay increase last year and in previous years as part of a deal paid to all RTE employees. There are 300 managers that may be the line managers or may not manage people. There'll be a reduction in the number of managers with fewer people to be managed. 1 in 6 people are managers or bosses at RTE, and they all got a pay rise. That's where some of that €750 million is going. And finally, maybe you're thinking about where you might retire in Ireland. There's no better place to retire in Ireland, is there, than Donegal? Though I suppose if you wanted to get serious about it, you might have to start thinking about access to healthcare and stuff. But the top retirement hotspots in Ireland have been revealed by a new survey, with Offaly leading the pack. The study identified 3 counties for strong healthcare, affordable living and a pleasant climate. Offaly, number 1, then there was Longford, and then there was Kerry. Now, I believe this was the 26 counties, and unfortunately, we're 6th from bottom. Donegal was the 20th most attractive counties in Ireland to retire. I understand the metrics which they used in relation to that, but I still maintain this is the best part of the world to live and retire into. Okay, that was a run through some of the stories in some of the papers today. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with our first guests very shortly.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
This Friday, Around the Northwest is coming live from Cosgrove Centra at Mountaintop. We've been invited across the road to see the new look store on the official launch day. Fresh from his big comeback at the weekend, Michael Murphy will be there, and there's a chance to win a signed jersey in store. With food tastings, giveaways and other prizes, it will be a shame to miss it. That's from 12 this Friday the 21st, live from Cosgrove's new look Centra store at Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Whether they're on holiday, watching TV, eating a family meal.
Put it down.
It seems teenagers just refuse to put down their phones. But help is at hand.
Because Fundamania is in Derry.
Real thrills, real fun, outside in the fresh air.
Fundamania Derry at the Brunswick Movie Bowl from February 28th to March 17th.
Choose regular, junior or family wristbands. Turn screen time into scream time. Details at fundamania.co.uk.
Vision for next cap revealed. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, don't miss your first glimpse at plans for the next cap and what it could mean for your farm payment. Beef prices break €7 per kilo barrier. Latest on the row over ICBF star ratings. Farmers livid over forestry storm damage response. TB herd incidence pushes past 6% mark. And we have key advice on how to prepare for a pre-planning meeting with your county council in our planning permission special. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. On sale now.
An bhecinn tú an córa bóthir sin.
Cén ceann?
An ceann bán leis an ggheorcail dómh agus cúiglín a thrasnánach agus sa lár. Cad a chilíonn tú sin arís?
Cílíonn sé gur cheartta tomáin ag 60 km san uair nó níos muile.
Cearcail lár?
Ná recinn tú an córa seo tomáin ag 60 km san uair nó níos lú agus do réir na Moithre agus na Haimsire i gcónaí. Teachtarach do núdarrás am thobháilteacht ar Moithre. Tuair cuairt ar rsa.ie.
Attention Donegal, Derry and Tyrone. PD Bathrooms and Tiles are proud to unveil our newest and most stunning showroom in Lisfannon Business Park, Buncrana. Located right opposite the Northwest Golf Course, we offer unbeatable quality and incredible value. For 30 years, we've been the experts in total refits, stocking and serving as the sole agent for many top brands. Visit us today and transform your space with the finest bathroom and tile solutions. Telephone 93 95 884. PD Bathrooms and Tiles, where excellence meets value. Lisfannon Business Park, Buncrana, F93H10F.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time now approaching 22 minutes past 9. We mentioned yesterday that there's been a 123% spike in the number of motorists in Donegal caught driving without insurance. Donegal was among the worst Garda districts in the country for driving without insurance between 2023 and 2024, or Donegal Gardaí were one of the best in the country in using new technology, I suppose, to identify people driving without insurance. Let's tease this out now with MEP Cynthia Ní Mhuircheartaigh. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Greg, good day, Maratashev.
How are you keeping?
Absolutely great. Wonderful to talk to you for the first time.
Indeed,
Hope
it's great to have you on.
I
Indeed.
have to say, my heart is in Donegal and in the Highlands and Guidor.
Well, of course. Why wouldn't it be? It's the most beautiful part of the world. What's your reading of these figures, Cynthia?
Yeah, concerning. Very concerning. Clearly, we don't know for sure why there is this huge spike over the last 12 months of people driving around without insurance. And you've just quoted the percentage there for Donegal. It's not good. Donegal was amongst one of the highest counties in Ireland. So I think we can point to a few things, Greg. there's a correlation between higher premiums and people choosing to take a chance and dodge insurance, drive without insurance. I think also because unfortunately we have seen a lack of road policing in recent times, which is going to be corrected, thankfully, by new Fianna Fáil Minister for Justice Jim O'Callaghan. I think that drivers throughout the country have fallen into bad habits. It's not just about taking a chance on driving without insurance, it's also perhaps without tax, but also speed and mobile phone usage while people are driving. So I know that the Programme for Government is committing to funding the recruitment of 5,000 new Garda recruits, and we will need to see a lot more present on our roads in order to remind people that there are not only rules and regulations in driving on the roads, but there's also laws and penalties, and there are penal custodian sentences as well. I think also with regards to the price of insurance, Greg, we need to see more players in the market. We have had a few new players over the last couple of years. Outsurance, for example, has come in, but we need to see more. And I think the existing companies who have abandoned loyalty for those drivers who are with them for all their lives, we have to see that loyalty scheme being introduced again. There was a change of heart with regards to that, to the extent that it was deemed necessary to look after younger drivers who were being loaded and penalised, and therefore the loyalty of the customers who were with companies for many years and who had a clean record, they were being prejudiced. I think we need to look at that again. And
But
overall,
just
I think
there's
the
quite a
insurance
few things
companies-
in there. There's a few elements to it. One's about the cost of insurance, which of course, for right or wrong, is going to drive people to risk it if they simply need to get around and can't afford it. I would never condone such behaviour, of course. But there is a frustration that, all the talk is about, fast tracking legal cases, measures in place to sort of cap payouts and all that type of stuff. And yet we are seeing a fall in insurance claims, and a lot of people see their insurance go up. And it doesn't make any sense that these are multi-million euro profit-making companies. They're not paying out as much, and that is not trickling to the consumer. Whether it's young drivers, middle-aged drivers, or older drivers, they are just increasing their profits, not passing on their savings.
Yes, well, that is one element of an opinion in this, but it's not quite that simple, Greg. The insurance companies are entitled to make profits. The government can't interfere and tell them how to make profits, how to run their companies, all of that. But can I just tell you that in the last 5 years, we've seen an increase of 40% in road collisions and fatalities. There are simply more people driving. They're driving in an inadequate way and in an illegal way sometimes. And this is increasing the cost of claims. And of course, with the rising cost of living, we're seeing even small claims. A little dint to a car is not going to cost you 150 euros anymore to repair. It's going to cost you at least 500. So there are a number of factors at play here. It's not all that simple to say the insurance companies are just making huge profits and they're not passing it on. It's not quite that simple. There are other strands. Yes, of course.
Yeah, but we
can
can.
insurance companies.
But
and
I
we
get
can
you.
say,
I don't want to be argumentative, Cynthia. But if there's more cars on the roads, there's more people paying insurance as well, and I presume there's more accidents as a proportion of those on the road.
Yes.
So I wouldn't buy that, with absolute respect to you. But anyway, we'll not get stuck in that conversation. There is a possibility here that new technology is actually identifying what we already knew. The insurance companies on I think an annual basis publish statistics, which I had to take a deep breath on at one point. I think it was 1 in 10 drivers are driving without insurance, or maybe it's even more. I'd have to dig in. I'd have to double check that, Cynthia. But the point being is I wonder, are we seeing an increase in people driving without an insurance, or with the number plate recognition, etc., and especially now in March with the driving license number having to be part of your insurance application. I just wonder, is the net closing in on those who knew they possibly could get away with it?
Yes, the net is closing in, but I can tell you that my figures are still concerning because I was looking at a period, Greg, that didn't quite cover the formal launch of the new tech and AI system that's been used by the Gardaí. But it's a great thing that the Gardaí are now using more technology. It's quite recent. It's only there since May 2024. But obviously, as your listeners know, they're able to capture a registration plate and run it through the database and know immediately that it is uninsured. I mean, I think think we should be using tech in respect of a lot of dangerous driving, such as speeding cars and all of that. But I think the uninsured driving in Ireland, it's almost 10% higher than any other member state by a long mile. There is a degree of alarm in my head when I read that. There's also a degree of alarm in my head, going back to the insurance company, when I read that insurance has jumped about 10% over the last year after some years of falling. There were falling insurance premia, but it has now jumped by 10%, which, as you know, Greg, and your listeners know, because we're all paying the price of milk and the price of electricity, that is way above the inflation rate.
Yeah, it's a toughie too, because, a lot of people, as you would know, say here in the Northwest, for an example, we have less money at the end of the month and we have lower wages. There are a lot of penalties on driving, which you'd be aware of, I'm sure. For an example, I think it's if you have an 08 car, if it's older than that, your insurance goes up really quite a lot. That's even though it's gone through its NCT and proven to be roadworthy.
Yes, my son has a car like that.
Yeah,
I'm
precisely.
totally aware about
exactly. If you choose to pay your car tax, for example, in quarterly, because you just don't have the money to fork out for a year, the government charge you an interest on that. They charge you a penalty for paying in. So it's a funny old system that we have, in that the less well off you are, or the more inclined you are to pay in for your tax or to have an older vehicle, you're excessively penalised for that. Maybe these are some of the people that feel they have to take their chance.
Yes, I think we have to look at all of that. There's got to be a fair and equitable and measured response to all of this. And look, to the credit of the government, they have quite an extensive action plan to be rolled out over the next mandate, which has just began, right? But they have some very interesting proposals with regards to whether it's tougher penalties, whether it's looking at the insurance market and making sure that it's a fair market in respect of all aspects of the product that they're offering. Can I just say, Greg, to the listeners, I'm on a committee in Europe, and I know that seems like very far away from the lovely hills of Donegal, but I can tell you it's the Transport Committee, and I'm going to raise this at the European level in the Parliament on my committee, these aspects not only of insurance but also of the inequitable market for some of the motorists that you've just described. And also, there's got to be a fairer market. With my other cap on, I'm on a committee which is Internal Market Consumer Affairs, and looking after consumers' interests. And I want to make sure that we are getting a fair share of insurance products in Ireland, and that we're not paying over the average of our European counterparts. If you look at, and I know some listeners out there might say, oh, you can't compare to Slovakia, you can't compare to these countries. But if you look at countries such as that, you will see that motor insurance premiums are approximately at least 50% cheaper in Slovakia and rural Hungary, if not more. That's not good enough. So yes, I'm calling for quite a lot of things, but when you boil it down, it's really about proper regulation and scrutiny of the insurance market, and looking at driver behaviour and ensuring that uninsured drivers, which nobody can stand over despite the difficulties that people have, whether it's with the cost of living or being penalised in respect to the premia, but they need to be prosecuted.
Okay, listen, lovely to talk to you. Thank you so very much. I do appreciate your time today. That's MEP Cynthia Ní Mhurthú on insurance costs. Now, yesterday, we spoke extensively about the lack of ASD classes and what have you, and many of you have been contacting us in relation to that. Hi, listen to the discussion regarding the lack of ASD classes. Donegal faces a severe shortage of these classes, with 694 children identified with ASD in 2020 struggling to access appropriate education. The new school building under construction since 2022 and nearing completion is already inadequate to meet demand. Decision makers failed to plan for the rising need, leaving many children without essential supports. In my opinion, instead of blaming the Little Angels School, which, can I just say, by the way, no one has blamed the staff or management of Little Angels. That didn't feature in the show at all yesterday, just to be absolutely clear. Maybe the caller's referencing something that's happening in an online space or what have you. But all of the parents I spoke to were conscious of the fact that the school has its hands tied behind its back in relation to this. I'm not being defensive, I just want to be clear in relation to them. Accountability, this caller says, lies with those who approved insufficient classrooms depriving children of basic educational opportunities. Decision makers should ensure urgent resource allocation and a strategic expansion plan are necessary to address this crisis. That comes in from Tony. Thank you for that. Right, let's take a quick break and we'll return to that subject after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Meet the all-new Ford Transit Connect and Transit Courier, both totally redesigned and equally hard-working, bold, versatile and built to go the distance. The Courier, it's the van that delivers, literally. The Connect, the ideal companion for your business, no matter the challenge. And now they're smarter than ever, available in plug-in hybrid and electric. Small vans built for big jobs. Discover the Ford Pro range on Ford.ie or visit your local dealer today.
New this week in Home Store and More. All wall mirrors and clocks are all half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price wall mirrors and clocks are gone, they're gone. Also, all bathroom towels and all recycling kitchen bins are still all half price. But when all the half price bathroom towels and all the half price recycling kitchen bins are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
When it's confirmation time, it's time for a trip to Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Choose from a great selection of top label, casual and formal wear. Blazers and jackets with shirts to match. Denims, chinos and footwear from big names like Diesel, Cavani and Tommy Bow. Buy your confirmation outfit at Watson Menswear and one lucky person will get their money back. Stand out on the big day at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny and at watsonmenswear.com.
Do you want to become a qualified scaffolder? SafeTech are offering a 7-day basic scaffolding course starting in Donegal on Wednesday, March 5th and in Sligo Wednesday, April 2nd. This programme is 20% funded. Terms and conditions apply. SafeTech are also running mobile tower scaffolding courses in March and April. For more details, get in touch with SafeTech today on 074 91 27786 or visit safetech.ie.
Nutrius XL Yo with Lamb and Nutrius Yo with Lamb Crunch are both formulated to ensure a vigorous lamb and excellent milk yield. Avail of our lambing season offer. 25 kg bags, buy 10, get 1 free. And €15 off per tonne in bulk. Available at your local Homeland store. Or contact your farm commercial specialist. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
I got a lovely email in from the DCITS Advocacy Group. It reads as follows. Dear Greg, I'm writing to thank you for having us on your show last Tuesday to talk about our transport cost campaign. People with intellectual disabilities don't get their voices heard on the radio or TV often, so we want to thank you for giving us the time to talk about our transport issue. We felt proud being on your show and it makes us feel stronger. The more opportunities we get to be heard, the more we can represent ourselves and make our own decisions. And I'll re-extend the invite that I extended to you at the end of that interview, that conversation, the chat, that any other time you want to raise issues, we're more than happy to speak to you. So we look forward to chatting again in the not too distant future. Right, CDNT family representative Leonard Watson joins me on the show now. Leonard, thank you so much for your time as always.
Good morning.
Right, now, families have been told that Ballymacool House in Letterkenny is closed again for respite for families. It's for a shorter period of time, but I just want to make sure everyone across the region listening, Leonard, understands what Ballymacool House is. Could you give us just a quick explanation of what it is and the services it provides to whom?
Yeah, Ballymacool Respite, as we would know it, it's a respite centre for families where they can put their adult children or their children in, which gives them a break. Maybe for a family event or just time out to maybe even get a night's sleep, Greg. So it's on a week on, week off. So it's adults 1 week and it's children the following week. And that's the way it goes throughout the year. Families have been informed yesterday that the children's part of it will be closed. They say for initial fortnight, but as you know, Greg, and I know, these things, there's a history of these things not being sorted very quickly. So like, this is not scaremongering. I'm not trying to put the frighteners on families there, but like, I think it's 4 families this week have been told that the respite has been cancelled for next week. these emergencies are always going to come. Like, this is not the fault of the person that needs to live there in an emergency case, but we've known over the last couple of years there will always be families who need this help.
I know you're being very sensitive with your language, and I agree with you 100%. So it is important that we clarify. This isn't necessarily because there's no staff or some work needs to be done. This is to accommodate an individual, and in order to do that, and look, there's always going to be a need for adults to have somewhere to live. That's not the issue here, but that's why this respite has been cancelled, because the accommodation is needed for an adult.
Yes, that's right. The adult service won't be stopped because, again, this person's an adult. But Greg, as I've talked about over the years, this is always going to come up. We're always going to have elderly parents that maybe they have an adult child that needs to go into respite for some reason, maybe an illness that we just don't have the accommodation. We should have accommodation. This is why we were pushing for that at all respite centres. There should be an individual unit for these cases until. Instead of shutting down the whole units. Carndonagh was closed for 4 years. Ballybofey was closed for a year and a half. We just can't have this with Ballinamacul. We're starting to get things moving again on respite, like where Carndonagh is going to open for 3.5 days a week. And this is now just going to put it back. As I say, Greg, they've said 2 weeks. And listen, I would love to think it is only 2 weeks, but I just fear the fact that they haven't been able to find this person accommodation up to now. How are they going to find it in 2 weeks? So the emphasis has to be on to have accommodation for these people as needed,
for sure, because firstly it makes sure that they have access to accommodation when it's needed, but it also means that parents who may well have plans and other family members relying on this bit of respite, right, that they're getting short notice that their respite care has been cancelled. It makes perfect sense for all parties.
It does, Greg. Like I say, this respite is probably booked in for maybe 6 months. This could be a first communion, it could be a wedding, it could be just a couple of nights away. Spend time with your other children. There's a whole plethora of things that this could be, and this has now just been all cancelled. And it's not. I say it's not down to the staff. It's not down to the unit. It's just down to bad planning,
And pardon me ignorance, is Ballinamacul has just a small number of rooms, or is it about the staff that are needed to care for another person?
Well, it's the fact that you can't have children and when there's an adult there.
Okay,
that's the reason.
Which is why it's 1 week on, 1 week off. So we can understand that for everyone. But at the same time, it creates issues like this.
But this is the reason why we have been pushing too for children's only respite for Donegal. These children's only respite, there are 6 individual units. And again, if there wasn't an emergency with a child, you still can keep the rest of the place open because they're individual units. And that's why we've been pushing for individual units at every respite. That these emergencies are always going to happen, because, again, the forward planning, we're always going to have adults or children who need somewhere to go at a specific time to help out the families, and we just can't keep doing what we're doing here.
No, and the week-to-week respite can't be the solution for that.
No, it can't be. It's too easy just to say we'll put that person in there. It's not good enough for families, and that it's just.
And when you're sitting down in an office somewhere and planning it and thinking that this is the right way of doing it, I'm not sure you're considering how it feels when you get that call to say your respite next week has been cancelled, that confirmation is off, or you can't attend that wedding. These paper decisions don't take into consideration people's lives and emotions and what it might mean, or could put someone over the edge. You just don't know. I'm not over-amplifying it, but you know where I'm coming from, and better than anyone would.
Like Greg, you have families out there that are not sleeping at night. There's so many, and you know what? I actually feel sorry for the person who had to make them phone calls yesterday. That's an awful thing to have to ring people who have made plans. And this would probably be the manager of the centre would have to make this phone call yesterday, and it's an awful thing for them too. But it's the planning.
Well, we'll make contact as well to see what the time frame is, and if the language sort of suggests it could be longer or what have you, Leonard. Yesterday we discussed extensively on the programme the fact that Little Angels school's going to be reopened soon. The new building's going to be open soon. We have at least 9 families that have been told that there's just not the capacity for their children. A great deal of sort of anger and upset, and upset just at a deep level in people. You could just hear it in their voices and see it in their eyes. How did we find ourselves building a wonderful new facility and not having the capacity that really anyone on the ground would know that we needed?
Well, Greg, you say nobody on the ground. Like, we knew 3-4 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone on the ground knew. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
You know, and I say there's politicians coming out now and saying this is terrible. They all knew 3 or 4 years ago too. Like, you know, the school was pushing for an extension 3 years ago. They knew they weren't going to be big enough, and I just fell on deaf ears. Like, you know, this is again the forward planning. Like I was saying there earlier, Little Angels should have overcapacity. You know, we're always going to have children come to Little Angels because it's the only school in the county. Like, and you know, and I remember chatting to a principal a couple of years back where they were putting on a unit to their school, and she asked for 2 or 3 classrooms, and they says, no, you only need 1 classroom at the moment. But she was saying, but I know there's so many children coming now in the next couple of years. We'll deal with that when it comes. We're always just sticking the sticking plaster on it. You know, these children. Like, my son goes to Little Angels, and the school at the moment is not suitable at all. There's no space, and the new school will be a huge difference. But the fact that we're probably going to have to put children back into porta cabins again is just absolutely ridiculous. And this was known.
That's if we get the porta cabins. You know the current site of Little Angels. A lot of people were texting in saying, could that not be retained to provide extra accommodation? Practically, that would be on a different site effectively. Do you see that as an option that could be pursued?
Well, what I was hearing, Greg, was that it's going to adult services. I always thought it would have made a great respite centre because you have the playground there and everything. Again, if they can find alternative, it would be the right idea maybe to keep it for the next one, because we have been using Educate Together for 3 classrooms. Again, this has been used for 2 years. Like, Educate Together has been used for over 2 years.
Well, there is a concern too, because there's no clarity whether those in Educate Together are actually accounted for in moving back to Little Angels. To talk to a couple of parents that weren't absolutely certain that was going to happen.
Yeah, well, I would actually heard that about a year ago. There was no guarantee. Nobody was given a guarantee that they were going to be moved back up. But again, so we could have children on 3 different sites for a brand new school, which is, again, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like.
Yeah, it'd be very hard for anyone to defend. I'll try and take a sort of a devil's advocate view on it, but we've just invested, I don't know how much it is, in the new Little Angels campus, and the solution now would be to retain 2 or 3 classrooms in Educate Together, and maybe, you know, 2 or 3 classrooms in the old site of Little Angels. It's really quite remarkable.
That's not fair either, because like all the services, you know, there is going to be therapy rooms. You know, if you have a lot of stuff in the new school that's going to benefit children, and you've got children spread all over now that probably won't benefit if this is the case that's going forward, that they're going to be on 3 different sites. Like.
It's just so heartbreaking to hear. Well, we heard from mums yesterday, but I know Dad's on immune by any stretch of the imagination. Just to get that notification last Friday that there's no space for your child in September, it's just unbelievable how deeply hurt the parents are.
Like, I would know a couple of parents. I was at a wedding on Friday, and I was with a parent who was waiting on that call to see if their child was getting in. And, you know, it's just a relief to know where your child's going to be, Greg. Like, you know, we all want our child to go to a school that they're happy and it's suitable. Like, and as everybody's saying, this is a right under the Constitution to an education. Like, and children with disabilities are, you know, they're the poor neighbour. Like, they are, you know, it shouldn't be this way, that we're now looking at a brand new school that doesn't have the capacity for children with special needs. Like, that's ridiculous. Like.
Yeah, and I suppose if you want to figure what it would be like sort of, say, for instance, say there's 900 kids in Milford Secondary School, and you tossed that and built another one and only had capacity for 700, you would go, what? Hold on a second, but you know there's 900 kids need to go back into that school. Why is there only enough classrooms for 700? People would go, this is crazy. Well, that's precisely what we're talking about now. We've built a brand new facility that if I'd asked you before I put the plans in, Leonard, you'd have been fit to tell me that it wouldn't have enough capacity for the demand out there. And that's the thing that I think the penny that needs to drop with people. Imagine it is just a secondary school and you rebuild it, but you don't build it big enough for the pupils in the catchment area. You'd think this is crazy.
But like, Greg, there's children at the moment in mainstream schools that are maybe in an autism unit assigned to the school, and they're not suitable for the child. Like, that child should be in Little Angels, and because they have been allocated a space, you know, they're probably not being counted in this. Like, you know,
no, and we also heard from parents of children yesterday whose children are doing really quite well with very complex needs in a national school setting or a similar setting, and they've been told now because of their age they're moving to a secondary school setting, and the child's age and ability does not match that of its of the child's birth cert. And they're going, well, this makes no sense. My child's going to regress or worse, you know. So I don't know. We need to, parents know better than sort of, I think, the pen pushers do. Leonard, sorry for taking you across all those issues there. I do appreciate your time. I do know your concern is all of that, but we invited you on to discuss this 2-week break in respite for children, the families of children at Ballymacool House. Your concern is that 2 weeks can quickly become 4, 6, 8, 4 years potentially. All right, thanks, Leonard. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
That's CDNT family rep Leonard Watson there.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Transform your home with Hegarty's Home Interiors in Buncrana. Discover a wide selection of stylish furniture and decor to create your perfect space. Our expert team offers personalised advice to match your style and budget. Visit us on Main Street, Buncrana. Open Monday to Saturday 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Or visit hegartyshomeinteriors.ie. Hegarty's Home Interiors, making homes beautiful since 1946.
In these difficult, turbulent times around the world, people all over Ireland are selflessly working to help those in need. The Irish Red Cross Humanitarian Awards are here to celebrate these incredible people. Go to redcross.ie and nominate a volunteer or group in the community who you think deserves an award. Nominations close Friday, February 28th. The Irish Red Cross Humanitarian Awards, because good deeds matter. Visit redcross.ie.
If you're looking for a competitive insurance quote, contact Hickey Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers in Letterkenny. Home, car or van insurance, farm, commercial or public liability insurance. They compare quotes from all the leading insurers so you get a great price. Call Hickey Clark and Langan on 91 26688 or call into the office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Keep out the cold, and ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Irwin Expert Electrical are hiring. Looking for a great opportunity in sales? We have a maternity cover position available in Letterkenny with potential for an extended contract. Full training is provided, so experience isn't essential. If you have a willingness to learn and are interested, apply today at info@irwinexpert.ie. We look forward to hearing from you.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
A damp and blustery start with squally rain for a time, though sunny spells and scattered showers will quickly follow for the remainder of the morning and through the afternoon. Temperatures today 11 to 13 degrees. Now, as you would have heard today, or maybe even learnt yesterday, planning permission has been granted for a new supermarket and filling station in Creasla. The plans have been approved by Donegal County Council, and the development is on the site of those tragic events that are so fresh in all of our memories on October 7th, 2022, where 10 people died. Anne-Marie Boyle is a sister, an aunt to Catherine and James O'Donnell. Good morning to you, Anne-Marie. Thank you for your time today.
Good morning, Greg.
Your reaction to, I suppose, the planning permission being awarded, did you expect that it would be?
We were expecting that they would go ahead with it, and I'm quite shocked that, especially with an ongoing investigation, that it has been granted. With no consultation with families. None of us knew about it until we seen it on their planning website yesterday evening. Now, both myself and Donna had contacted them and asked, because there was no decision. Everybody else's decision was put up, but that was withheld in relation to the Creasla shop.
So just for those who may not be aware, Anne-Marie, there was maybe 5 or 6 or 7 decisions published yesterday. All of them said decision made, and the decisions are either denied, approved or conditional. The Creasler planning application, it was listed as decided, and in the space where the decision was blank. So whilst it was published yesterday that a decision has been made, the decision itself wasn't actually, and you weren't given any notification of that, no prior information, say, by the way, prepare yourself because planning permission is to be awarded or not awarded. There was no interaction in that regard. In fact, I believe that you were told yesterday by the council that the decision actually wasn't made and you'd be notified by post in the morning.
Yeah, and the families have only received their letter this morning after it's been published publicly. Families had to sign, and the families who received their letter this morning had to sign for it. But there was no conversation or any email. I mean, when we put in our appeal, the planning office had quite a few emails of family members. I know they certainly had ours, and they had Donna's, and they hadn't even as much as sent an email to say that the decision will be made and that we'd be told in an email before seeing it in the public portal, a planning portal.
In relation to, say, how, because of the incredibly tragic and sensitive nature of this, Anne-Marie, maybe I'm wrong in saying so, but say, for instance, in terms of the Gardaí, there are meetings with An Garda Síochána, are there not, whereby you're told in advance stuff. In other words, that you hear it first from the Gardaí and then it might turn up in the media or not further down the road. That's how the engagement with the Gardaí work. Is that correct?
Yeah.
For the most part.
Our last meeting with the Guards was they told us, they informed us that the site had been handed back to the owners, and it was out of their hands, whatever was decided then.
But I'm talking as much about the communication, Anne-Marie, but you don't have that same relationship with the council. Like the council wouldn't call a meeting for Tuesday and say, as you'd be aware, a decision will be published tomorrow and we want you to hear it from us first.
Yeah. Even if they didn't want to meet us face-to-face, Greg, they could have, out of manners, sent an email. They could have sent an email if they didn't want to face people. And we all feel the same. It's like a kick in the gut again.
What for you is worse, or maybe it's part of the one thing that the application has been approved, or how you found out that it had been approved?
A bit of everything, Greg. A bit of everything. As I say, it was an ongoing investigation. Like, we're going into 3 years. We may be going into 4 years before we hear.
And is it that this site is to be developed at all, or is it that it feels that things are moving in the wrong order and things are moving too fast in some areas and too slow in others? Have you worked that out in your mind where you sit in relation to that?
We feel it's a bit of both. We have said all along. I know I had spoke to Mr. Ward right from the very start. He assured me that there'd be no decisions and that they would keep in contact with the families and keep us up to date with everything that is going on. Now, we haven't been afforded that. And as I say, the Guards have been quite open. Every time we have meetings with the Guard and the investigation team, they've been quite open and told us as much as they can. Obviously, there's some stuff they have to hold back because of the investigation, but they've been open and transparent with us as much as possible, where the council have just hidden behind their policies. And
I think it's very important as we as the general public sort of try and work out what we would do or feel in situations like this, that there's two things going on. There's grief, which is one thing, but there's also trauma, which is another. And trauma is I'm not a psychologist, I'm not going to try and explain it, but it's a very severe form of grief whereby you are traumatized by an event and things like this happen, and that trauma begins or is reignited straight away again. It's different to the mourning
Straight away.
process and grief. And it's just important that everyone factors that in when considering that this is a sight and a scene and a cause of extreme trauma for an awful lot of people. Anne-Marie, and when we've put inquiries into the council, what's done is done. I suppose it can't be undone now. I'm sorry for how it's making you feel. I really am.
Craig, can we just ask one thing? We will be appealing the decision, and we would like to thank everybody who has shown their support to the families and the injured, and hope that we would be asking for their continued support as we go forward with this appeal. And there's quite a few elderly family members. We have buried our mum on Saturday. Never got over it, no answers, and as you say, it's the grief all over again, the trauma. We're just so angry at how this has been handled.
Anne-Marie, I'm so sorry, and I hope I haven't added to it, but I think you wanted your voice heard, and I appreciate you speaking to us. That's Anne-Marie Boyle there, who lost her sister, Catherine, and also James, her nephew. We'll be back after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Join Ireland's finest singer-songwriter Paul Brady and guests Sunday the 13th of April at the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny. Hear Paul perform such classics as The Island, Crazy Dreams and The Homes of Donegal. Tickets for Paul Brady on sale now at the Mount Errigal Hotel and Ticketmaster.ie. Paul Brady and guests, presented by Joe Gallagher Entertainments.
Packing, passports and racing to check in. Holiday prep can be pure chaos. With your travel money, that's one essential you can tick off long before you leave. Pop into your local post office today and sort your travel money in cash or card instantly. Or sign up for a card in the An Post Money app and top up before you go. No commission on foreign currency, no need to pre-order, no fuss. Visit your local post office today. An Post Money. Make your money matter more.
T's and C's apply. An Post Money currency card is issued by PPS EUSA pursuant to licence by MasterCard International. PPS EUSA is authorised by the National Bank of Belgium and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules. An Post is authorised by the Minister for Finance to provide foreign currency cash.
Winter sale now on at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, Donegal Town. Amazing prices on made-to-order kitchens, sliding wardrobes and much more. Don't miss your chance to transform your home at unbeatable prices. Book your appointment today at cherrymore.ie or call 07497 25822. Cherrymore, 28 years of adding quality and value to your home.
Make perfect pancakes every time with Dunnes Stores. Whip up a batch with fresh eggs, 6 for €1.39. Or choose an 8-pack of large buttermilk pancakes, just €2.50. Then add your favourite toppings like a sprinkle of sugar with 49-cent lemons or chocolate and hazelnut spread for a 100-gram jar, only €1.50. And for that finishing touch, you can save at the till with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Log on to Revenue's My Account to claim any tax credits you're entitled to. And tell us about any extra income you have earned outside the PAYE system. If you're due a refund, you'll get it within days. If you owe us money, we'll work with you on a payment option. My Account. It's quick, it's easy, and it's free.
Experience top quality tours with Boyce Travel Ramelton. From the stunning bloom in the park to the charm of Westport and Killarney or the excitement of the ploughing championships, there's an adventure waiting for you. See boycetravel.com or call 9151043.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. Planning permission has been conditionally granted for the construction of a shop and fuel forecourt at the site of the Creasle tragedy. 10 lives were lost in October 2022 after an explosion. Donald Kavanagh has more.
The application was first made by Vivo Shell Limited on the 18th of April last year. There's been ongoing criticism from the families of the victims, calling for the site to be developed as a memorial garden. The plan does propose a memorial garden and a light sculpture, but the families say that's not enough. 31 submissions were received by the council in respect of the application. 10 conditions need to be met in order to see the current site demolished and a new forecourt and shop constructed. The premises will also include a post office, deli and off-licence. In a letter to those who made submissions, the council says they have the right of appeal to An Bord Pleanála. Appeals must be received by APB by March 19th, 4 weeks after the initial planning decision was made.
The Seanad has been told that Donegal's exclusion from the list of surgical hubs being developed across the country is a missed opportunity. Senator Manus Boyle was speaking after the first 6 hubs announced in 2023 was opened in Dublin last week. Of the 6 hubs, 2 were in Dublin, with 1 each in Galway, Limerick, Cork and Waterford. Seanad leader Sean Kine told Senator Boyle his point was a very valid one, and he suggested he table a commencement debate under which the minister would come to the Seanad to hear the motion.
Might be something that is worthy of putting it down, a commencement debate on directly with Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeill, and talk about obviously the absence and the long journeys. I know under the cancer strategy, for example, there's a lot of people coming to Galway, which is a long journey, but certainly for the work that would take place in surgical hubs, which is more minor procedures, I think it would make sense that such a facility would be provided in the northwest.
Garda recruits won't have to undergo such severe fitness tests in the future. The force is relaxing the rules to encourage more people to join. Stephanie Rowan has the details.
There's currently a big push to increase Garda numbers, but one thing stopping this is the fitness test. Many people are failing it, so Garda management has decided to relax the rules according to the Irish Times. 162 out of 520 candidates didn't pass it last year. Sit-ups and push-ups are now being removed, while the bleep test is going to be made easier. The fitness test will also be standardised instead of having different versions for men and women and older and younger candidates.
Ancient remains found in Northern Ireland are believed to belong to a young woman who lived 2,000 years ago. Research carried on the Ballymacombsmore woman in Balahy, County Derry in 2023 shows she was aged between 13 and 17. The 5'6" woman lived during the Iron Age. A war of words has broken out between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. The US president accused his Ukrainian counterpart of being a dictator over not holding elections last year. It was in response to being described as living in a disinformation bubble. Mr. Trump also says Russia now has the cards in negotiations because it's taking a lot of territory. Nigel Darroch's a former UK ambassador to the US.
All of this is very damaging and is also a Russian script, frankly. It's very, very strange stuff. I mean, Trump's team aren't saying very much of this. So this is all coming out of the White House, and it's deeply disturbing.
The bodies of an Israeli mother and her 2 children are among 4 handed over by Hamas this morning. Shiri Bibas, 4-year-old Ariel and 9-month-old Kiefer was kidnapped during the October 7th attacks. The militants group also released the body of peace activist Oded Lifshitz, but insists they were killed by an Israeli airstrike while in captivity. Sky's international correspondent Diana Magny says Shiri Bibas and her 2 sons have become a symbol for the conflict.
These 2 little red-headed boys who were so young, who were taken with their mother, their father Yarden taken separately, and their images really became famous throughout the world.
PSNI in Derry are seeking out information on a man who is believed to be armed with a hammer last night. Reports were received of the individual acting suspiciously at 1 a.m. in the Waterloo Place area. Those who believe they can assist with inquiries are encouraged to get in touch. Looking now to weather, sunny spells and scattered showers for the remainder of the morning and through the afternoon. The showers will become less frequent by evening with mostly dry weather expected by then. Highest temperatures of 11 to 13 degrees. That's all for now from Highland Radio News, back again at 11 o'clock.
The obituary notices for this Thursday morning, the 20th of February. The death has occurred of George Gallagher, Fanahan, Inver. Remains reposing at Gallagher's funeral home, Station Road, Mount Charles, today from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Wake at the family home tomorrow from 12 noon until 9 p.m. Removal from there on Saturday morning at 10:30, going to St Noel's Church, Ardahi for 11 o'clock funeral mass, followed by burial in St Noel's Cemetery, Ardahi. Family home private, please, on the morning of the funeral. The funeral mass will be live streamed on the St Noel's Parish Inver Facebook page. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice. The death has occurred of Cathal Malloy, Drumnacrosh, Glenties and Dublin. Reposing at Shevlin's funeral home, Sandfield Ardra, today from 3 o'clock until 5 o'clock, followed by removal to Drumnacrosh. Funeral from there on Saturday morning to St Connell's Church, Glenties, for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the local cemetery. Family time, please, on the morning of the funeral. The funeral mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Friends of Letterkenny University Hospital, care of James McGuinness and Sons funeral directors or any family member. The death has taken place of John Mulholland, Coolderry Fanad, also of Belfast. John's funeral service will take place tomorrow morning at 10:30 at O'Neill's Chapel of Rest, 98 Stewartstown Road, Belfast. Cremation service to follow at Roselawn Crematorium at 1:20. Donations in his memory can be made to the Abbeyfield Belfast Society. The death has taken place of Annie May Hart, née Devine, Roger, Corner House, Lifford, and formerly of Glenmornan. Reposing at her home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Murlock at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. And the death has taken place of Millicent Millie McKinley, formerly of 9 Myrtlefield Road, Kilfennan. Funeral from her son Norman's home at 11 Arden Place, Woodburn, this morning at 11:30, followed by a service of thanksgiving for her life in St Peter's Parish Church, Coolmore Road at 12 noon, followed by burial in Ballyone Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to St Peter's Parish Church or Dementia NI. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Cervical Check provides free cervical screening for women aged 25 to 65. HPV cervical screening is one of the best ways to reduce your risk of developing cervical cancer in the future. If you're due your cervical screening, don't delay. Make an appointment today. For information and to check you're on the register, visit hsc.ie/cervical check or free phone 1800 45 45 55. From the HSE.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
Or indeed, you can call us on 07491 25,000, as many of you had on a range of issues so far this morning. A caller says the issue of Creasla has become a farce. People still haven't got answers as to how this all happened. People arrested by Gardaí, let go, now planning permission granted to open a shop by the owners again. Very raw, I think, at this stage. This is not right. Just in relation to people being... I don't know the ins and outs of how an investigation is conducted, but my feeling would be that you arrest someone and that offers protection to the person, that it's for purpose of interview, and that's to offer protections to them and also the integrity of the investigation as well. Arresting someone and releasing them does not necessarily mean that nothing may come of that, and arresting someone and releasing them doesn't mean that something will come of that either. But it is the process that must be gotten through, as I say, for the person being interviewed and also the person interviewing them. A caller says it is very upsetting to hear Anne-Marie on the air. The public and the family have not yet been informed of what happened to cause this explosion, yet the filling station was able to get planning permission. This is absolutely disgusting, and my heart goes out to the families. Greg, the Creasla tragedy will end up like the Stardust tragedy, believes a listener. Another, it breaks my heart to hear what the families are going through, but the reality is life goes on, and I don't mean that in a hoarse way. And I get where you're coming from, and I as you can hear, covering all sides of this. But as I was said to Anne-Marie before, if life goes on for everyone, you have to accept that it's at the expense of the emotions and the feelings of those that lost people on that day. That you can't, one does not make the other go away. So if it is the argument that Creasla needs a filling station and these services, and I'm sure it does, and if it's the case that life does move on because we all deal with our own personal tragedies and what have you, you do have to say life does move on, but you also have to accept that it is at potentially the traumatic cost or grieving cost of those that have been directly affected by this and those indirectly affected by it. So, you know, when I have an opinion on this, I have to sort of say, well, if I want this to go ahead, which I'm not saying I do or don't, if I want this to go ahead, I have to accept that Anne-Marie is going to feel the way she does. And that's further collateral damage in this whole situation or something. You know what I mean? You can't make people come with you of life moving on. You either leave them behind you or you don't. If that makes sense, the point I'm trying to make, I hope it does. But as I say, I'm not expressing a view one way or other because I don't feel like I'm in a position to. Hi, Greg. I'm writing to express my anger at the disgraceful manner in which the families of the bereaved discovered the outcome of the planning application by Vivo Shell Limited. The decision was published in a newspaper yesterday evening, even though the families weren't officially notified until this morning. The County Council needs to explain how this could possibly happen. Another, I'm glad with the decision that planning permission has been granted in Creeslough. Everything has to move on, just like Omagh, Derry and other places throughout the country where tragedy has occurred. A memorial can be placed. As a coastal walker, I'd love to see an arched footbridge connecting Tramore Beach with Ards Friary in memory of the Creeslough tragedy. All about building bridges, says that listener. Disgraceful decision by Donegal planners to grant permission for another petrol station on the site of the Creeslough explosion. There are no excuses for putting corporate interests over those of the local people. Shame on them. Now, again, the planners make planning decisions in conjunction with the county development plan and the national development plan. And they have to explain those decisions, right? So they have to say, we have refused planning permission because, and now I don't believe I'm wrong in relation to this, but they could say we've refused planning permission because we feel that the entrance exit to this facility could cause collisions or something along those lines. I don't believe they have it in their capacity to say that we are declining planning permission because of feelings, and that might sound insensitive, and I don't mean it to be. I hope people know I don't, but it's just as it conforms to the county development plan. I could be wrong in relation to that, and very open to correct if I am. Hi, Greg and the team. Thanks for being the voice of DBS. Okay, we're a platform for the voices of the defective concrete block scheme, but I appreciate your comment. Could you ask your listeners if they're experiencing no progress with the scheme? My application was accepted by the council on the 6th of July 2024, and the housing agency received the application on the 12th of July. The agency told me they wouldn't be out until Q1 2025. I've heard nothing, not even an email from them. Are people getting houses inspected at the minute by the housing agency? So if you were in that timeline. Now, we're still in the middle of quarter 2025, so that would run effectively to the end of March. So at this point, they have not gone past that timeline. But I know what you're talking about. You'd want some contact or something. So if you have been told that you are going to be contacted in quarter 25, is that happening? Q1 25, I think is the easiest way to get to it. Or is there a backlog that's pushing, Q4 24 into Q1 25, etc.? Hi, Greg. The modular in the back garden is very welcome as I contact you from a doghouse. But seriously, new minister, new kite. Shall we watch the lobbying from the institutes of architects, engineers, planners in their loss of revenue? The current 40-metre squared exemption comes with conditions and limitations attached. Yeah, I mean, there are those in the business of providing houses that might say, this isn't a good idea. So I don't think you're being too cynical in that comment. Greg, there are already loads of sheds and independent dwellings at the back of people's houses, so the proposal to legalise this is common sense, and with so many adult children living in the main house, this would be a practical solution for all common in some countries. But I recently was at a place where it was selling some of these modular houses. And there's a big difference with what might be at the back of someone's house. A shed, maybe it's a man shed, or maybe it's a small apartment, or it's under 16 by 16 foot. That's fine. But you can get effectively that you can move in once you've furnished one bedroomed property, wooden property constructed on your site for 45 grand euro. And it's perfectly livable. I was inside one of them. Nice bedroom, bathroom, dining, living area, be perfectly fine for a young couple or what have you. At the moment, you couldn't put that on your land, but I'm telling you, for 45 grand, you could have a perfectly livable wooden house with heating and hot water and all of the amenities. You couldn't do that now, so that's the type of property I presume the exemptions would allow. Hi, I'm listening to Highland Radio discussing car insurance. More cars on the road. Claims the car in our house is being urgently recalled due to a fault which may cause a fire in the vehicle. How many more of these cars are on the road since they were made? Are faults like these causing cars to go on fire and cause an accident? I'm sure this isn't the first recall of cars with a defect. Greg, I know you're on about car insurance, but house insurance has got so expensive. This year, mine was $570 for the renewal. For this year, $797. What's going to happen is people won't be able to insure their homes because they won't be able to afford it. Thanks, Greg. I was in the exact same boat. My insurance, I'm sorry to scratch record job. I think I can never remember the exact figures. I think it went from $690 to $850 with the company I was with. And I went, oh, why is that going up? Do a renew? Shopped around and got it for $550. So I got it for about 400 quid less than the renewal. And it's a piece of cake to switch house insurance. So I saved 300 quid on the new quote. Why would why would I stick with a company that's trying to shaft me of an extra 150 quid? Probably most of the people caught driving with no insurance are young people that are waiting long on a driving test and are insured, but because they don't have a person on with them. No, I think this is people being caught without insurance. There's definitely a cohort of those that you're talking of, but a lot of people in this country drive without insurance. The stats tell us what's happening now is a lot of them are being caught. 123% increase. Now, I'm not sure from what base in Donegal it could be. That could actually be going from 20 to 43 or 42 or 41. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if it's gone from 1,000 to 2,200 or whatever it might be. And in fact, we might actually dig those figures out at some point. By the way, can I say good luck if you are playing the bingo today in supporting Vision Ireland and potentially winning thousands of quid with our jackpot.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 20th of February, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €10,200 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S19. It's game number 8. The jackpot number is 29. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 75, 77, 61, 20, 87, 52, 40, 81, 89, and finally 24. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Get the right tools or equipment to get any job sorted with the great weekend deal at Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Hire any tools or equipment on a Friday for 1 day and they're yours to use until Monday. 3 days hire for the price of one at Watson Hire every weekend. Get the job done and dusted with this great weekend hire deal at Watson Hire Lisnain in Letterkenny. Call 916-7777 or see watsonhire.ie.
If that tickle in your throat has turned into a nasty cough, or if you're just feeling a bit under the weather, at McGee's Chemist we understand. From the right cough bottle to pain relief or throat lozenges, we've everything you'll need to get you back on your feet. Our pharmacists and experienced staff are always ready to offer advice and help you find the right solutions. Don't suffer in silence. Visit McGee's Chemist today. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, for healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Want to win €5,000 towards your dream Donegal wedding? The Gallant family with their 3 stunning venues is here to make your special day unforgettable. From the award-winning Villa Rose and Jackson's Hotels in Ballybuffet to the cosy charm of Anchurch Hotel in Gweedore, we've got the perfect setting for your perfect day. Visit gallantgroup.com today.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Caller says, why is Greg making excuses for such an insensitive decision? Another site should have been chosen. I'm not for a second making any excuses at all, but I try as much as possible to deal with facts on this programme, and it's not a popularity contest either, and that was my understanding. As I say, I'm open to correction. It doesn't in any way excuse the decision. I was simply talking about how it might be, how one might come to it. I appreciate your feedback, by the way. I genuinely do. That's why I read it out. Katrina is with me on the show now. Hi, Katrina.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You opened your contact with us. We've another fight. You've another fight on your hands. It must feel like that all the time. What is the situation with your family, Katrina?
So, Greg, I'm mommy of 2 children. I have Bobby, who is 11, and Ben, who is 6. Ben attends Kilmany, St. Francis Kilmany National School ASD classroom, as does Bobby. There is 6 children in the ASD classroom, and swimming, water therapy is so important. All therapy is so important, Greg, but water therapy is even more important because, you know yourself, if you're having a bad day and you want to go to the pool and you get into that water and it's like your troubles, they just go away. You know, the water therapy is so important, and our Ben is pre-verbal, okay? But when he puts his feet in the water, Ben starts to sing. Now, Greg, as you can imagine, this is the most amazing sound that you can hear when that wee man starts to speak or sing. Anything, as long as it's like magic. Yeah. So what I was trying to do there, and I was doing it very well until yesterday. So I had contacted our local swimming pool and explained that now we already are members of this swimming pool and we go maybe 3-4 times a week. So I contacted the swimming pool regarding getting the ASD children in for swimming lessons, and the pool says to me that they don't do swimming lessons anymore. And I was like, okay, what if I can get a swimming instructor? So they were like, well, see how you get on. I then got a swimming instructor, an ASD, an additional needs swimming instructor. She was on board, ready to go, and then we got an email to say, I got a phone call first to say that the pool was at capacity and they're now not able to offer their facility because they're at capacity.
And this is a private business, and they say they understand your situation. They have an insight into it. They regret the decision, but given the capacity of the facility that they need, they simply don't have the space to accommodate this. I mean, the solution to this obviously is not relying on private business here for the likes of Ben and others. The big elephant in the room here is the ongoing issue of the Buncrana Leisure Centre, which would be a public facility that would be more than able to accommodate what we're talking about here.
100%, Greg. 100%. Now, yesterday evening, I contacted Dennis McGee up in Falcara. I contacted Michael McClafferty up in Falcara. I contacted Martin McDermott this morning to see what they can do. And they're very much going to push it forward for me. But I have a big, Milton House in Carndonagh was a respite centre used for swimming lessons. That is now closed. Mm-hmm. But I know that there's a HSE member of staff still getting paid for a business that's closed. And I'm going, what's that about? How can that be right when it's closed? So my issue is, we have a new Minister for Sport. You know, is he going to push this down the road for us, or is he going to fight for the families? Because, swimming is not it's a non-competitive activity. There's no pressure. Ben might struggle, as maybe other children with additional needs might struggle with the like of Gaelic, soccer, athletics. It's too much information for their wee brain to comprehend.
But there is something about the water, isn't it? And it's our participation.
It's amazing, Greg.
Yeah, and as I'm speaking to you, others are messaging in too. Jenny says, iPhone would love this service for my 6-year-old ASD daughter. I would say there's hundreds of families around the peninsula and beyond that this would make a huge difference to them if there was a public centre in Buncrana. Obviously, you talked about the now Minister Charlie McConalogue. There was some recent controversy because there that project was in the mix for some funding, and that funding went to Letterkenny. That was the project that was selected, and Buncrana was overlooked in relation to that. And now it's being tied into a much broader sort of development in Buncrana. The provision of a public pool in Buncrana seems as far away as ever, some might feel.
Yeah, 100%. So the children in our local school goes to Derry for swimming lessons.
Bobby can
and
go
that
to
is
those,
okay.
can't he? Bobby goes.
Bobby
to those
goes to
lessons,
them.
right.
Yeah, Bobby goes to them, as does all the other children that's in. I think it's from first class up.
Yeah.
They do the swimming lessons. I done it myself when I lived in Falcara. We used to go to the Shandon Hotel,
Right.
and it was class. But that's okay for a child that doesn't have sensory issues.
Mm-hmm.
Going on a bus travelling to Derry for a child that has sensory issues could be a big thing. Maybe it's motion sense. There's so many other things, Greg, that you have to take into consideration. Like, I know myself for Ben, when we're going in the car with Ben, we have to tell Ben where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm going up home to Falcara, I say, Ben, we're going up to Falcara, we're going to see Granny, or we're going to see our family. If I take one turn wrong on that journey, he starts to panic because this is not the road that he knows. And I'm like, I might just have to run into Tesco for a second, but I haven't told him. So now he's going to have a breakdown or a meltdown. And like travelling into Derry, yeah, it's not that far from where we're living, but we're passing Buncrana. It's not fair, Greg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
not
lots of
fair,
people are
like-
agreeing with you, I know, and it's kind of frustrating. I know it's frustrating for you because you've been battling away on this. You did incredibly well, actually, to locate an instructor. It just so happens that the pool that's closest to you says and explains in quite a lot of detail they just simply don't have the capacity. So you were so close. Katrina.
Oh, but I'm not giving up, Greg. I'm not giving
No,
up.
I
I
don't
will
think
get
you
it. I will get it. And like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if my husband goes to me this morning, Katrina, why do you have to fight? Who else is going to fight? Like, who else is going to fight? If I don't step up for my children, and maybe other mammies that doesn't have that power, I have a very good voice, and I am not scared to use my voice to get what I want.
No, well, we've Jenny, as I mentioned, Dawn's messaging in supporting you, Kathy. Well done, Katrina. My family would also benefit from these facilities because you may or may not know these people, but it just points to the fact that there's lots of people.
There
out
are
there.
local support groups. This
There
is
you
our
go.
local support group that we go into Spriaga Sport in Cairn. And Spriaga Sport is amazing. Helen is amazing. But why do we have to fight so hard? It's just not fair, Greg. And like, when I spoke to Caroline this morning, like the hotel, I'm not saying anything about that hotel because they're amazing. Like, I done a fundraiser 2 years ago and they supported me 100%. And I know they're supporting me now again. Like, I raised €10,000 2 years ago for the local or school.
Well done.
There's another fundraiser in the pipeline, but we're a year out, and I'm not giving away too much information yet because it's a year out. But this is going to be a big fundraiser,
Yeah.
and we're going to help other people. But it's just not fair, Greg, that we have to fight so hard.
Yep, and it's just always is in this conversation, Katrina. Every little victory has to be so hard fought for, and there's lots of battles lost along the way. But it's people like you who simply won't give up on the children, because that's what it's about, isn't it? You know, we talk an awful lot about the threats to this country and this, that, and thon, but the battles are here trying to get facilities for our children and Ben and other families that are affected by this. But also to Katrina, you know, you talked about the support group that you're involved in, and I'm always conscious of the mums and dads, or the mums on their own or the dads on their own that are listening, that have children in the same position but aren't as vocal or don't feel that they have that voice or aren't parts of groups. You know, and I think you speak on behalf of lots of them as well.
We go into Spree and we do. It's kind of like a parent toddler, but they're not toddlers. Like Ben's 6 now, he'll be 7 in June. It's about being accepted and like we have a lovely wee group in there, and we go on and we chat and everybody. And like there was a mommy came into the group on Tuesday and she's just started her journey. And I remember when I walked in Spree for that first time, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know anybody here. I didn't know anybody here in the starter because I'm not from the area. I am here now and I'm not going away. But to be able to go over and chat to that mum and say, listen, I've been where you are I know what you're going through. Her child was flapping because it was a strange place. And I just said to her, what's his favourite toy or program? And she was like, Dougie. So I started singing, Hey Dougie, and he relaxed. Now it's bargaining because she had to keep giving him biscuits. But it's about having that support to be able to help another parent. You know, like we do another group in Moville, Tracy, she's a counsellor, and she comes and just chats to us and just checks in, like, you know, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
You have a lot going on at home. Do you need support? So she's amazing too. I can't say her surname because I can't pronounce it, but she's Tracy. She's a counselling service in Kildare.
She'll know who we're
talking about. She works at the Serenity House. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, she's amazing. Like, it's just great. Thank God I have a very good voice and I know how to use it, because there's mammies out there that doesn't. And if I have to be their voice, I will be.
All right. Well, you've been a strong voice today. We'll contact Minister McConalogue's office to see what he feels in his new position he can do to progress Buncrana Leisure Centre. For now, Katrina, thank you so very much and keep fighting. I'm sure you are going to, but thanks so much for talking to us.
Not a bother, Greg. Thank you so much for taking me on.
Bye-bye, Katrina. Dawn says swimming is so important and aquatherapy is so much more than just the life skill of swimming, which is so important for safety. Considering we live on an island surrounded by water, it has so much sensory stimulation and a huge impact in their physical and mental health. Having a child with additional needs myself, it definitely is so important. And we know, even look at that fantastic work that's goes on in Rossnowna, that so many of you will have brought your children and young adults to, or older adults in fact. Kathy, well done. Katrina, my family would also benefit from this. Good morning, says the caller. It's a disgrace that there's no funding made available to primary schools to take children swimming, even though it's on the curriculum. Children are entitled to 6 weeks a year. Our local school has to fundraise for lessons for all classes. Change is needed now. The unique sort of situation though in the Shown area is that there is no local public swimming pool, and that means going into Derry. And for some children with additional needs, that journey is not conducive to their well-being. Good on that woman, Katrina. Keep fighting. You will succeed. It's just a pity, but keep going. Time for Charlie McConalogue to start doing something about this. He put up no fight for Buncrana when they were giving out the funding last year, says a listener. Right, let me see. Okay, I'm behind on my break. Back in a sec.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Visit Century Complex for a perfect family day out. Kids will love exploring Century Play, hours of fun in Century Golf, and lots of tasty options available at Backstage Bar and Grill. And at Century Cinemas, we're showing romantic comedies like the new Bridget Jones and Mad About the Boy. Get in touch on 074 9121976 or visit centurycinemas.ie for more information.
Want to work with the very best? Then make the all-new Nissan Interstar your next recruit. It's first impressions that count, and the Nissan Interstar doesn't disappoint. With a brand new eye-catching grille and jaw-dropping design. And with a stronger-than-ever payload, it has the power to match your ambition. Available now in electric and diesel versions. Let the world know you mean business with the all-new Nissan Interstar. Contact your local dealer or visit nissan.ie. Nissan. Defy ordinary.
Shop Homeland's February mega deals now at your local Homeland or online at homeland.ie. Barry's or Lion 600 tea bags now €19.99, save €4. Grozone Max Greenhouse now only €99, save €50. JFC calf slats 900 by 1200mm now €105, save €21. All this and more until the 23rd of February only. Visit homeland.ie. Nationwide delivery available.
Transform your space with McCafferty Tiles Ballabufey, specialising in large format and designer tiles. We offer expert installation and free design consultation in our showroom or on site. Let us bring your vision to life with bespoke recommendations. Call 086 242 3604 or find us on Facebook and Instagram. McCafferty Tiles Ballabufey, showroom by appointment.
If you smell gas at home or on the street, don't ignore it. Open windows and doors. Don't smoke, vape, or use a naked flame. Don't unplug or switch anything electrical on or off. Turn off the gas at the meter. Then, no matter who your gas supplier is, call Gas Networks Ireland on 1800 20 50 50. Visit gasnetworks.ie to screenshot the safety steps, save them to your device and share with friends and family.
Finn Harps play their first home game of the 2025 League of Ireland First Division campaign this Friday. Dundalk, one of the title favourites, will provide the opposition at Finn Park. We'll have regular updates with Dermot Doherty on Highland Radio this Friday from 7:45pm kickoff in Ballybofey. Finn Harps on Highland in association with B&S Credit Union Ballybofey, where their Cultivate loan is available for your farming needs. Visit bnscu.ie or free phone 1800 290 390. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
We're just chatting to Katrina Devlin, a powerful woman, campaigning, doing an awful lot of fundraising, and a big fundraiser for children in the pipeline. Stuart joins me now. Stuart, you're of the view, really, the parents shouldn't be having to fill these funding and services gaps. Am I correct in framing it like that?
Yeah, well, this country every year seems to have a surplus of money at the end of every tax year, and we're always throwing money at other countries to help them, like African countries, Middle Eastern countries and that there, which is fine. But I'm of the belief that Little Angels and Donegal Hospice and all them places, they shouldn't have to raise money. We're a wealthy country by all accounts. Not that you see it in your bank account, but there's no reason at this day and age that we need all the charities that we have. A lot of the charities, a lot of the money's going to CEOs and people that work for them. So by the time it whittles its way down, there's not enough thought left.
I suppose it's a bit of a chicken and egg, Stuart, isn't it? Because a lot of things like services like the Donegal Hospice or other support groups like iCare or the Blue Stack Foundation or what have you, they emerged because the services weren't there. Do you know what I mean? They weren't there at all. It's not that they were being underfunded.
Yeah, I know that there, but they have to be funded. It's we're 2025 now, and it's a service. Everybody knows that the Donegal Hospice and the Little Angels and all them places is the most special things we have in Donegal. And a lot of people will leave money to these places when they die, and it's a thing that people give money to, Christmas or whatever, or if they do a charity fundraising that they'll give money to. I'm not objecting to that because these places need extra money, for TVs, better supplies, and for people coming in and singing and doing music and doing whatever for these. You can't let people do everything for nothing. But I'm just saying the amount of money that's available in this country, instead of throwing it at hedge funds and people to build houses and there's enough brown envelopes and back pockets being filled. It's bad that they can't. Every county should have a hospice that shouldn't have to.
I would love someone to sit me down, Stuart, and explain to me how we as a country with the economy of a small country, but the population of a large city, why there's any problems at all. I know that sounds incredibly naive, but I'd love to be for it to be explained. I mean, obviously, a city is condensed, right, and we're looking for services spread over a larger distance, and I get that, but it still doesn't...
Well, we only have one city, that. All our money has been pumped into Dublin. Everybody knows that, living in Donegal. What we get is just the dregs of what Dublin doesn't want. And they'll push in Dublin to the extent the rail network and the Lewis line, and they'll go for an underground, and we'll still be sitting up here waiting for a bridge across the river in Letterkenny. Our politicians aren't doing what they're meant to be doing. I just don't understand why Donegal even needs a politician, because they certainly do nothing for Donegal. Once they get in, that's it. They just don't care. But back to the charities, the only people should be fundraising is the of the GAs and soccer clubs and athletic clubs and that there, and they all should get a wee bit of money every year as well from the government, because we are
I just feel, I know what you're saying, Stuart, but and I know sometimes the pay that certain people with certain charities get seems astronomical. How we would transition from the system we have now, where we'd be banjaxed without a lot of these services, to sort of state-run, properly funded and staffed services.
Oh, I'm not saying state-run.
I don't.
Certainly not state-run.
Right. Okay. I just
no, that's the problem in this country. There's too much state-run. Keep things running the way they are, but have funds available from government. Let it be grants or whatever way they want to.
I get
to
you,
put
right.
it.
But fund what's there. All right. Stuart, listen, thank you so very much for your time and your comments. I do appreciate it. Councillor Ali Farron of the 100% Redress Party has views on the conversation about respite we've been having. Ali, thanks very much for your time. Good morning to you.
How are you, Greg?
I'm doing good, Ali. Listening to, parents and those affected, and it's an ongoing conversation. And I think we could actually do this show every day for a year about services for children and young adults, be it mental health, physical health, educational, development, care, whatever it is. But we can't, but we could. What's your view in it all, Ali?
Well, as somebody who just works within the community centre and things like that, you meet people quite a bit, from involved with different problems. And while I ran as a 100% redress candidate, and our main agenda was obviously 100% redress and effective blocks and so on, there's lots of other issues out there that are affecting the people that live in my area or in North Inishowen. And the respite one was one that was coming up with the doors. And to be fair, most of the people who need this respite, they're getting on with it. They're doing their best without making a while out of, they're not out putting big signs out advertising, that they're under pressure. But a lot of these people are getting now to the stage, like if you have an adult child now, you're my age, and, these people are looking after their children 24/7. They just need that bit of help that gives them a weekend off or time to go to a holiday or time to have times with their other children. And we're not getting it in any shown. And COVID has been the greatest excuse for not giving that type of a service. It seemed to stop a lot of that. But then after that, there's centres opened. They're of no use to the people of North Inishowen. Like, I've heard of stories of somebody being offered respite in somewhere down around Dublin. Like, that's not on. If you're a parent that's looking after your child, it needs to be somewhere close by that you can feel that the people looking after them, you can get help, or you can send your sister or your brother in to check up that whoever's in is being looked after okay. So it's not on any show at the moment. There's talk about it, but at the moment we don't have it. We don't have a service.
And also too, we would be in serious bother if the family weren't caring for these people. And yes, it's the burnout. A lot of it's off air, but speak to people. And they tell you stories about how they're, in some cases, young adults, for example, they don't sleep. They won't go to sleep till 4 o'clock in the morning. And then if you get to 7:30, you're doing well. And lots of people listening will have had children with additional needs and with not. And, you talk about the routine, and they're great sleepers, and they get on at 7 and they get up at 7. Like, put yourself in a position where you're 23 years deep into a child that won't sleep, that's turned into a young adult that won't sleep. And now they're, a strapping young lad as well too, who, through compassion and care might be over aggressive. I don't know what the situation is. And like, very little break. We call it respite, but it means just getting a break. Even as Leonard said earlier on, for a night's sleep. It's not always for a holiday, or it's sometimes literally for a night's sleep. Why aren't we providing this more universally? And I think you put this to the Minister Foley, in a letter recently.
I did. And I'm not a great person for writing letters, to be fair. I'm more a chatter, and I'd rather have a conversation about things. But I just felt that these people need somebody to speak up for them. And that is probably, maybe Ali Farron isn't the right person, but the fact that it's coming from a county councillor, they tend to listen a wee bit more, and we will tend to get a reply that maybe some of the other people won't get, I hope. I've also sent it to every senator and every TD in the county as well, because I want them to, I don't think it's a political thing. I think it's something that they all need to speak up on behalf of the people in this. Like, you were on earlier today about Letterkenny. This is an all Donegal thing. It's probably an all Ireland thing in truth, that we just need more. We need the facilities in place to help out people who are helping as it is anyway, but they need help.
Yep. They just need a break and support. And I think you've pointed to a very, and I'll go back to it because I actually thought it's an important point. You talking to often we find ourselves talking about two parents of 5-6 year olds, and that's critically important that they get the right care and the right attention and the right education at the right time. But you quite rightly pointed out there could be adults 25, 30, mum and dad could be 50, 55, 60, 65, who's to say? And, they probably even need more of a break at times than others because it's so intense sometimes. That's a group of individuals that maybe we don't talk about, or they don't necessarily speak out as much as younger parents.
Well, we all listen to young parents complaining about that they haven't had a night's sleep because, the baby is up every 4 hours. But if you try doing this for 35 years, and that's what some of these parents are doing, and, respite by its name, in my opinion, is a rest. And that is vital. Now, I've spoken to plenty of parents that have not been able to get respite in the last 5 or 6 years. I have spoke to a parent who wants to go and visit her other
son or daughter
family, somewhere else, and they can't get respite to go and see a newborn grandchild. It's, it's a sad state.
But you'd have to be an angel, literally an angel, not to also start feeling a bit of resentment in that situation that you couldn't get. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the person you're talking of, but that you would feel so confined that you couldn't fly off or drive off to see your newly born godchild because you weren't getting the support for the work that you're probably doing, if I'm guessing, for 25, 30 years. It must be incredibly... It must make you sort of, your emotions and feelings go all over the place and feel thoughts that you probably feel you shouldn't think. But that's the kind of situation people are finding themselves in, Ali. And I'm speaking generally, not to your experience.
I don't know if we can help, but we have to be a voice for people to get the kind of help that they need. Now, your program every week is talking about this issue and that issue. And as you say, there's lots of issues. But there has to be maybe a better fix that for people that they can, they can have a week off every year at least, or a period of time, or a few days off if you're having a family wedding, or because like you even working 5 days a week, it drains you, but you're finished in the evening time. These people are not finished. From the minute they open an eyelid in the morning to the minute they go to sleep. And even when they're sleeping with one eye open because of the care and attention they're given to people, and they need support. And that's the point that I'm looking to highlight.
That's it. And I think you've done it well. They're not looking to not do it. They're looking for it to be somewhat more manageable. And there's another group then of carers that are caring for, people in the house, an older parent or sibling or something as well. It's another whole cohort of people that also struggle to get respite. I just think the state needs to understand that if it had to provide, and it could have to provide these services, the expense it would be, and all families are looking for is a little bit of help, a little bit of respite. Councillor Ali Farron, the one thing I will say, like I think people appreciate that you were doing this as an individual. I think some would feel that if the council as a whole was taking a stand on issues like this, and saying like enough is enough cross-party, that it would be more difficult for a minister to ignore. But I do understand that you only can control what you can control, and the representation.
Then it becomes political.
Well, but it shouldn't. Matters like this shouldn't be political. They see it shouldn't be political.
Like I shared an article that was in the Dairy or the Farmers Journal because I felt that if I wrote 16 pages, it couldn't tell the story as good as what the person who that wrote that. But Jerry McMonagle was involved in it in that picture, and he's a Sinn Féin representative, and like it doesn't matter who speaks out. Like I was speaking to Senator Manus Boyle yesterday about this issue, and he's a Fine Gael senator, obviously. So to me, I don't care who can speak to the right people that will deliver the right thing. I don't really care.
But no, as someone sitting in this seat, as a constituent, it doesn't matter to me who does it.
No.
And Councillor Ali Farron, thank you so much for your time. He is of the 100% Redress Party.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
On Cloud Trainers' new collection at Brian McCormick Sports. Cloud Monster 2 from Max Cushioning and Max Energy Return. Cloud Runner 2 with Cloud Tech cushioning to absorb impact. Enjoy this supportive feel-good running shoe. On Cloud Trainers for all-day activity with comfort and versatility. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click on bmcsports.ie.
Bargain Homewares, Lower Main Street, Letterkenny. Closing down sale. Everything must go. Huge discounts on all remaining stock. Don't miss out. Grab incredible deals before they're gone at Bargain Homewares, Lower Main Street, Letterkenny.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Vision for next cap revealed. In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, don't miss your first glimpse at plans for the next cap and what it could mean for your farm payment. Beef prices break €7 per kilo barrier. Latest on the row over ICBF star ratings. Farmers livid over forestry storm damage response. TB herd incidence pushes past 6% mark. And we have key advice on how to prepare for a pre-planning meeting with your county council in our planning permission special. All inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware, with stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre, or online at ormccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice, whatever the occasion. McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in-store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Okay, it's going to get blowy at times over the next wee while, but let's just focus on today. A damp and blustery start, which is past now. Sunny spells and scattered showers quickly following for the remainder of this morning and the afternoon. The showers, though, will become less frequent by evening, with mostly dry weather expected by then. Highest temperatures of 11 to 13 degrees in fresh and gusty southwest winds. We were talking yesterday about DIY Academy, and actually, I'd love to hear your DIY disasters. And I always like to admit mine, and mine are so plentiful. But I think one of my most embarrassing ones was in the garage in the house. I wanted to run a cable between the bedroom and the garage. The garage is a bedroom. So I decided to drill through. So I got myself one of those big long drill bits, inch wide or half an inch wide or whatever it might be, and drilled through the hole and looked through the hole, all proud with myself. But I thought it went through a little bit too easy. And I looked through the hole and it was outside. I hadn't counted for the bedrooms being recessed because it's a slight overhang in the roof. So I effectively drilled a hole outside, and it's still there to this day if a mouse wanted to break in. But as I say, we were talking yesterday about the DIY Academy. Have you any DIY disasters that you would like to share? You know, just for a bit of crack. I've put mine out there. I would never ask you to do something I wouldn't do. There's other ones that have yet to be discovered, shall we say, that I've patched. And that have yet to be discovered in the house that could become quite controversial. I will tell you those if they're ever discovered, but that's the one for now. Drilling a hole outside for a bit of ventilation. The room's freezing as it is. All right, let me see now. A caller asks, can we get insurance outside of Ireland? It's an interesting question, and I actually tried to Google it. You know, because we're the EU, can you get insurance for Ireland in a German country? I'm not sure. I presume you can't, or we'd know about it. Or maybe I'm wrong to presume. Let me know. 086 60 25,000. Staying on the roads, what about in our courts where the judge finds someone for no insurance, maybe while banned from driving, a very small sum, €200, and then gives the person 6 months to pay? Yet when you go looking for insurance, it costs you upwards of 500, I would take that. And has to be paid immediately. Why would anyone buy insurance if that's all the fine you might get in the court? Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I mean, if there's different people that are in different circumstances, right? And if I were to sort of do that, I would lose the car, it would be impounded, then I'd have to pay more, and I'd be off the road and I couldn't get to and from work. So I'm never going to risk it. Someone might be in a different set of circumstances and might risk what you're outlining, but I think for the majority of people, it would be too big of a loss to lose the car. Loads of you texting in on Donegal County Council's decision to award planning for the redevelopment of the site of the Creasler tragedy. That and much more on different issues coming up as we approach the news at 11.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Whether they're on holiday, watching TV, eating a family meal.
Put it down.
It seems teenagers just refuse to put down their phones. But help is at hand.
Because Fundamania is in Derry.
Real thrills, real fun, outside in the fresh air.
Fundamania Derry at the Brunswick Movie Bowl from February 28th to March 17th.
Choose regular, junior or family wristbands. Turn screen time into scream time. Details at fundamania.co.uk.
New this week in Home Store and More. All wall mirrors and clocks are all half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price wall mirrors and clocks are gone, they're gone. Also, all bathroom towels and all recycling kitchen bins are still all half price. But when all the half price bathroom towels and all the half price recycling kitchen bins are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
You can't predict a minor injury or illness, but you can be sure of Ophelia Letterkenny's MIU walk-in service. Our priority is to see all patients within 1 hour, from minor illnesses to cuts and breaks, sports and limb injuries to minor burns. Ophelia Letterkenny MIU, located in Scally Place. Accidents don't wait for an appointment, neither should you.
At Charlie's in Letterkenny, they've been serving great food since 1984 to sit in and take away. Everything is cooked to order, so if you're having an all-day breakfast, a burger, or some of their renowned fish and chips, you'll know it's been freshly prepared. And there's a great selection of gluten-free options. Home-cooked food in the heart of Letterkenny at Charlie's. Open Tuesdays to Saturdays, 12 to 8 on the Pierce Road. When the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
Switch to solar and save. Cut your energy bills with Efficient Renewables, trusted since 2009. Solar is clean, affordable and now more rewarding with a €1,800 SEAI grant and 0% VAT. Order by March 1st and get your free BER assessment. Don't miss this chance to save money with Efficient Renewables. Call 074 970 8320 for a free quote today.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock. It's time for a news update, and it's over to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Planning permission has been conditionally granted for the construction of a shop and fuel forecourt at the site of the Creasler tragedy. 10 lives were lost in October 2022 after the explosion. Phoenix Law, representing several families affected by the tragedy, has stated that the decision will be challenged at every stage. They described the decision as insensitive and morally bankrupt. Uisce Éireann has confirmed that the Céadú main rehabilitation project is scheduled to commence in early summer. The project will start at Burton Port End, as Donegal County Council are planning on resurfacing the section of road, so Uisce Éireann and Donegal County Council have agreed that the water main will be laid in advance of the road's overlay. There are 599 admitted hospital patients on trolleys this morning, according to the country's biggest nurses' union. INMO figures show 403 people are waiting in emergency departments across the country. A further 196 are in wards elsewhere in the hospital. University Hospital Limerick remains the worst affected, with 109 patients on trolleys. Letterkenny University Hospital is the 5th most overcrowded today at 34. PSNI in Derry seeking out information on a man who was believed to be armed with a hammer last night. Reports were received of the individual acting suspiciously at 1 a.m. in the Waterloo Place area. Those who believe they can assist with inquiries are encouraged to get in touch. And finally, fitness rules to join the Gardaí are going to be relaxed in a bid to hire more recruits. Too many people have failed the test, and so it's going to be made easier. Sit-ups and push-ups are now being removed, while the bleep test won't be as tough. That's all for now from Highland Radio News. Back again at 12:10.
You seem to have been doing a bleep test there on your way in.
I was doing a bleep test on the way in. I'm not used to doing this shift.
I know, I've never seen you move so quick. Donna Marie had to dash into studio, which is all good. Thanks very much, Donna Marie. Okay, we'll be back with more after a short break.
It's only Wednesday and the kids have got tons of homework to do. Start with Irish. Meatballs and tomato sauce from Aldi. Specially selected 100% Irish Black Angus meatballs, only $2.99. Served with specially selected tomato and basil pasta sauce that's made in Ireland and only $1.99.
Dinner's ready!
Make your school day meals hassle-free and delicious. Good food, good mood. From Aldi.
Okay, here's a lovely wee message, actually, that would have meant an awful lot to someone, and hope the person that was responsible is listening. It reads as follows. I'll start again. I was on my way to the breast clinic yesterday, and I met a woman in the shop at the mountain top, and she gave me the medal from around her neck. I just wanted to say I'm grateful and got on well. Thank you. Well, what a beautiful thing to do. Back to the issue of planning being awarded for the redevelopment of the site of the Creaslet tragedy. The community and surrounding area needs the shop and facilities back in their town. As harsh as this sounds, it should, of course, go ahead. We all know it was devastating and can't imagine the effects it has still rippling through everyone affected. But roads don't be closed when lives are lost. Development sites where I'm sure there are fatalities along the way, do those sites, developments cease and never open? The shop has to go back. You need to be realistic. There's nowhere else in town suitable to house fuel tanks. And I don't think it's fair, the nasty comments online towards the owners, as their goal is primarily to get the services the community always had back up and running. There's never going to be a right time to proceed with this, but it simply has to go back. Yeah, and I think maybe if the speed in which it was going back, the investigation and answers that the families want were delivered, maybe it would be more palatable then. But, you know, they're always timeline takers. They're timeline takers in terms of, you know, when the investigation will be concluded, and they're timeline takers in terms of when the site is development. What about them? You know, are they always the ones that have to just grin and bear it in their grief? I'm throwing that out there as a conversational point. Rightio, let's go to our friend, Dr. Joe Kelly. Good morning to you, Joe. Thank you very much for your time. How are you keeping?
I'm keeping very well, and agus maidin mai good hain agus the luck déisteach in Highland Radio. Good morning to yourself and all listening in Highland Radio. All's well, thank God.
Good stuff. Now, you, like many people, have been following closely I was going to say weekly, it's daily, it's hourly, changes, it seems, to the geopolitical environment, America's relationship with Russia, America's relationship with China, America's relationship with the EU. What's your view on it all?
Well, look, there's a lot going on, and maybe the thing that I've been focusing on is more the economy, and maybe to put the backdrop to it. Last year, Irish exports to the USA actually went increased rapidly to 72.6 billion. So almost 73,000 million of Irish exports went to America last year. We actually imported from America about 25.6 billion, so almost 27,000 million. So there's a deficit, so you could say, of a goods trade surplus of about 50 million. We are selling more to America than America's buying off us. So that's just the first thing. The second thing, the corporation taxes. So there's thousands of American companies here in Ireland of various sizes, but the big companies, the Googles, you know, the Metas, the Apples, the Alphas, the Pfizers. The thing there is that we last year in 2023, as the latest figures we had, got 23.6 billion of revenue taxes from these companies. In other words, that money gave us a surplus. Had we not that money, we would be in serious deficit. And Greg, you've mentioned this, and in fairness to you, you've been ahead of the curve on a number of times, but particularly with this one, you've always asked the question, what would happen if these companies or their taxes were to leave the shores of Ireland? Where would we be? And it wasn't a question of whether it was Trump. It was going to happen at some stage. It just happens to be Trump on this occasion. And the reality is everybody's making out Trump to be the enemy. But what people maybe need to realise is it's not just Trump. This is the Republican government. This will be there probably for the next 12 years if Vance is re-elected on 2 terms. So we're dealing with a reality rather than an ideology as such. And even if there was a change of government, those taxes that they will take back, repatriate to America, they aren't going to turn around in the next administration and say, okay, let's send those companies back to Ireland. Yeah, you
can't just ride it out. Just in relation to that, I think you phrased it as Donald Trump is the enemy. I think that's a media framing of Donald Trump. Well, firstly, more people than not support him in the United States. You know, he won everything. He won the houses. He won the popular vote. He won the whole lot. And there's a lot of people in this country want a Donald Trump-style character. The language he speaks in terms of borders, in terms of about culture, in terms about transgenderism, LGBTQ, etc., hiring people to have them better represented and not necessarily because they're best at a job. You know, whether the mainstream media, of which I suppose I'm a part of, they might want to frame Donald Trump as the enemy, but that's not the view of, I don't know what the percentage of the Irish population, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was half, that they say, right, that's what we need. He's singing from the same hymn book of which I wish to sing.
I totally agree with you. And there seems to be a blind hatred towards Trump, Vance and the Republicans at the moment. And that's very evident in the media, and it always has been. And in reality, Greg, that goes straight right up into our government. I mean, Micheál Martin, told Europe to stand up to him, that he was more or less a bully. Simon Harris called him an old gowl. So these kind of phrases, people, there's a reporter for the Telegraph, Michael Murphy, and listening to him, and he said, and he's written about it as well, he has said that Trump is very, very aware of the attitude of our government leaders towards him.
Do you know what's actually, do you know what I think? Sorry, Joe, to intervene there, because I was listening to this morning, and I actually believe there's a bigger influence in this. Elon Musk has taken a very big interest in the free speech issues in Ireland, a very big interest. And he is incredibly influential over Donald Trump. And I have no doubt that Elon Musk, in terms of the invite for March 17th, would say into Donald Trump's ear, you know what's going on in Ireland, though? They're worse than such and such and such and such. That's the kind of world we live in now, where you can actually see the communication pathways as to why an invite might not be forthcoming, because Elon Musk has serious issues with the Irish government and EU governments more generally. That's why he's trying to disrupt elections across Europe.
Well, again, there's no point in turning up with a bowl of shamrocks to the White House when you hate the man and have castigated the man in the media or Irish leaders. I mean, that's a reality. And Greg, I'd ask your listeners, would you do business with someone that dislikes you or hates you or despises you or castigates you? You certainly wouldn't. I certainly wouldn't.
Donald Trump certainly wouldn't. Whether Biden might, Donald Trump certainly wouldn't, because he takes this stuff incredibly personally, as we know.
And so what Trump has said through Vance in the Munich speech that he gave last week, which I thought was very insightful. And look, I'm not trying to take sides on this. I'm just trying to deal with reality as opposed to ideology. People tend to think of Trump in ideological terms rather than facing the reality in which we live. And that's terribly, terribly important. And so what Vance said, it's not about just doing business. It's who we doing business with and the values that they purport or support. And he talked about free speech. He talked about the migration. He talked about the EU, that the enemy was within. And don't forget that Vance
I know you want a convo, right? That's as if there's some sort of moral high ground. Who they're doing business with now, whilst they're calling Vladimir Zelensky a dictator, is a dictator in situ in Russia. That's who they want to increase trade with. They've said that. They want to increase trade with the Chinese, which is also got a questionable leadership structure. So even just in the space of the last week, it's a bit contradictory, is it not, Joe? That Vladimir Putin is the good guy now. They've reestablished all of their diplomatic channels. They want to work together to the benefit of both economies. Not saying anything about Vlad's, how he's running his country, right? But all of a sudden, because you can be locked up in Britain for a tweet, they might not do business with them. Already I can see, I'm not saying one way or other what I feel, but you can already see that really it's not that principled, Joe. It follows the money. It follows the money. It's not principled and honourable.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but as you know, I'm a historian and I take the long picture. And I do believe that history will write that Putin wasn't as bad a man as the media and the world would like to believe. And I'll give you the wrong picture if you indulge me for a few minutes or a few seconds. I'll ask you a question. How many times has Russia attacked Europe? And I'll ask you the converse of that. How many times have Europe attacked Russia since the 1700s, since the 1750s? And the facts are that Europe has been continuously attacking Russia. Russia has not been the aggressor in history. That's a fact. You had the Great Northern War of the 1700s, 1721, Napoleonic Wars, the Crimean War, World War I, the Russian Civil War, World War II. Remember that Russia was attacked by Germany in World War II, and they came back in and they took over the buffer zone states, the communist-controlled countries from Poland right down to Albania, Romania, and said, we're not being attacked anymore. You see, you've got to understand their understanding of history. And here, what the media won't tell us is Putin has requested for the last 20 years to join the EU. He wants peace. But the EU do not want Russia. We want their gas, but we don't want them. And when they parked their army for 6 months along the Ukrainian border, and what they were trying to do was force negotiations to have a more diplomatic relationship between the EU and Russia. And history will reveal all that. I'm not agreeing with what Putin has done. He's brought a terrible war and he's caused killings and deaths and maiming and destruction. But I'm talking about the long picture of history.
Yeah, can I just add something in there? You talked about the press here, and this is not to take sides on me saying what's right or wrong, but there's something seriously amiss. I was listening to briefly to RT this morning, and they described in their coverage of Putin, Zelensky, Trump and all that, they described what's happening in Ukraine as Russia's war on Ukraine. That's exactly how the state broadcaster described it, Russia's war on Ukraine. Yet they describe Israel's attacks on Palestine in a completely different way. That's a war between Hamas and Israel. They describe Hamas, confusingly, they describe Israel, those captured in Israel as hostages, and the women and children that Israel captured from Palestine as prisoners, right? So to be honest with you, I can't get my news from an organization that has an editorial policy that is basically Putin bad, Israel good.
Yeah.
So and that doesn't even it doesn't matter whether it marries to my views, because I don't want affirmation of my opinions, but I can't trust media organizations that have editorial policies that pick a side in a situation and frame it as such. Because how could you trust them ever to give you proper, accurate, unbiased news? I'll make up my mind. You give me the facts and I'll make up my mind. And that's why the trust in media is going through the floor, Joe, I would suggest to you.
Oh, the legacy media. Well, an example of that is RTE. I mean, look, it's so woke and it's so biased. And you don't know where the government starts and RTE ends. I mean, look at how many politicians now have come from the RT stable. George Lee, you had Mairead McGuinness,
I'll be here
MEP
all
and
day if you
Commissioner.
go through them all.
Yeah, but see, there's obviously the new Senator Nicolin that's been appointed was a sports broadcaster with RT. There is no distinction between the government and RT. So RT are always going to be at the handmaid of the government and a spokesperson for the government. Look at the Katie Hannon show the last night that brought up neutrality, the question of neutrality, with a very enclosed or small number of people with a certain agenda. Who is it in RT that's pushing this agenda? And it's very, very interesting. Again, Thomas Byrne, who now is the Minister for EU Affairs and Defence. I don't know if anybody noticed the word defence has been stuck onto that title. And he talked about us going to go out into Ukraine. We're arming ourselves. We're militarising ourselves.
But we've always had a peacekeeping role, though, Joe, haven't we?
Absolutely, we've always had a
and he has said it would only be under a UN flag, the same as we're doing in Lebanon.
And listen, Greg, have you not heard Michael Martin saying, or Taoiseach, we'll have no backward-looking view of sovereignty? It's in direct contradiction of the proclamation of 1916, where the people of Ireland were sovereign. And Thomas Byrne was out at an EU meeting where they were discussing a European army. Whether we're involved in it or not, we'll be funding it. And it'll be your taxes and my taxes. We might be able to say, oh, well, we're not physically fighting there, but our taxes will be paying for it. And we're going to spend billions. Ursula von der Leyen, who is the president of the EU, unelected, might I add. Nobody voted for her. She's there. And she's decided to increase the budgets for spending on military. So we're going to borrow more to buy more arms to go to war.
Yes, but at the same time, though, I do understand that, Joe, but we also, sadly, and this has happened throughout history, even when we're throwing stones at each other, if you are seen as weak, there is, whether it's Vladimir Putin or it's another agent or whatever it might be, a weak Europe is a vulnerable Europe. Europe cannot defend itself. That is why Donald Trump is all powerful and can dictate as much as he can, because you do have to be able, if you are a bloc or a unit, you do have to be able to defend yourself, or a country will try and expand its borders. That might not be pertinent to now, but that's the way life has to work, unfortunately, because if I don't put a door on my house and I leave for a week, when I come back, someone will have been through my house.
Well, see, this is, Greg, where I'm a believer, and maybe I'm not into the violence and the aggression, the old 1960s, make love, not war.
Hey, I'm all for that too.
But I would think that we should make a bigger effort in trying to find compromise. And unfortunately, our country has, or not so much our country, but our political leaders in the last 3 or 4 governments have become very arrogant and very moralistic. Shane Coleman on the News Talk made a lovely broadcast about this, how we become the moral judgment country of the world at the moment. We're judging Russia, we've fallen out of them. We've judged Israel, we've fallen out of them. We're judging Trump in America, we're falling out of them. We're actually being very disliked as a country with the way we're behaving, and that is not, and this is our leaders, not us, that is not the way we work.
It's kind of interesting, Joe, because it's actually been words. It's like Simon Harris, the way he referred to Donald Trump. It is not necessarily policy and positions that we're taking, though some of it is. Yes. It is actually words that often don't even really align to our constitution, and no one's been given a mandate to utter them.
I totally agree with you, and sometimes the best things politicians can do is keep quiet and say nothing and keep saying nothing. And so, but back to the point about where we're being led, the reality is that we as a country, and again I'm going back to the history. We went into Europe in the Dark Ages after the fall of the Roman Empire. This is a fact. This is history. I mean, there's a number of books written about it. Cahill has written one. Fitzpatrick has written another. How Ireland Saved Civilization, Ireland and the Foundations of Europe. These are books that are scholarly books that are written about Ireland and how the Irish monks went into Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire and re-educated Europe. Not just brought the faith, but re-educated Europe. Over as far as Kiev, believe it or not, in Ukraine. There were 70 Irish monasteries at least throughout the whole of Europe. And we did that without guns and without arms. We did it with love and kindness and goodness and good values that we always had in this country. And somewhere in the last 2 or 3 governments, we have had politicians that are speaking a different language to the people of Ireland. And if you can bear with me, I think of the story, again, historical story. I had a great Latin teacher, Brenda McAllister in PCC, and she told, we did the Latin, I studied Latin, and she told us about the story about Icarus and Daedalus. They were mythological story. They were imprisoned in Crete Island by the king, and they wanted to escape. And so Daedalus was his father, was a very bright man, and he made wings from wax and feathers. And he told his son Icarus not to fly too close to the water because the feathers would get damp and he would go into the water, not to go too high because the sun would melt the wax and he would sink. But Icarus suffered from hubris. He didn't listen to his father. He flew higher and higher up into the clouds, and his wings melted, and he fell into the sea and drowned. I think Micheál Martin and Simon Harris are the modern Icarus of Ireland. They're flying our country too high to the sun and melting our wings. And what I mean by that, the wings of democracy, the wings of diplomacy, the wings of simple humanity in dealing with other countries.
So
and we become
in relation to that, we just it would a change of government, a new government could come in and they could quite simply say, the mantra at the moment is that we're military neutral, but we're not politically neutral. Okay, but a new government could come in, or this government could change their mind and say, actually, from now on, we are completely neutral, both politically and military. But how does that work in the modern world? Like, that means you couldn't take a stance on any issue really at all, because you would be seen to be taking sides. You couldn't take a side in the Middle East. You couldn't take a side in Eastern Europe. You couldn't call out another country. Like, you'd have to go all in on being.
Well, I think when you're military neutral, it gives you a position, and this, unfortunately, our neutrality has been compromised, as you said there earlier about words, people saying things that maybe the words are important. We should be allowed to, obviously, as a neutral country, to say things with authority because of, like, for example, in Gaza, and say, look, we're not happy with that. But the way we handled that was very political, very acrimonious. Another bit of history. And with Israel, I would have handled Israel totally different to our Irish government. So, for example, this is a part of history. Your listeners can Google this. There was a Sinn Féin rabbi, he was called, Herzog. He was a rabbi in Ireland in the 1920s, and he had a big fan of Michael Collins and a big fan of the First Style. Herzog Chirac was his name, and he was a fluent Irish speaker. And when Israel was formed, he went back and became the head rabbi in Israel. His son became the president of Israel, who was born in Ireland. His grandson is now, Isaac Herzog, is the president of Israel. His father was born in Ireland. We have unbelievable links and connections worldwide, but we haven't used our diplomacy. Okay. Our president should have gone to him, to Isaac Herzog, and said, look, we're not happy as a country. We don't believe in what
just in relation to that, Joe, and I know people might think I'm cutting across, but you know that about time, and I want to move things on, and it's actually to get your opinions on it. Right, we can't defend ourselves and never will, no matter how many billions we spend. We also don't have the power to influence stuff, right? So we can be shouty and say Israel this and Russia that and whatever we might want to do. But it actually doesn't make any difference anyway. So
exactly.
So the question I'm asking you, do you think the motivation is for Ireland to be on the right side of history and to have its say on certain matters, or conversely, because we have absolutely no influence whatsoever, that there are individuals that like the spotlight, that like to be Ursula's mate? You know what I mean? Because we're in a union, we're locked in it, right? We've got crappy fishing and farming terms from Europe, so they're not doing us any favors, all right? But so why are we not only complicit, but we're going beyond that? We are going beyond that to be cheerleaders. So what is the motivation of that? It doesn't benefit us in terms of fishing deals and what have you. So is it because we want to be the good boys of Europe and maybe to get our names out there for a big job down the line, like we've seen with Leo Varadkar? He's got a cracking job now over in the United States.
I don't know the motive behind it, but I tell you what the motive is. They don't really care about the Irish constitution and the Irish people. I genuinely do believe that. The mass migration policies of the EU are being imposed on our country. It is not going to end good. Our whole idea of neutrality is being pushed. It's not going to end good. Our economic situation is in a very precarious position. We're on a cliff at the moment, and we might find ourselves and I may predict that our government will fall possibly in the next 3 years, 3 budgets. We'll probably get away with 1 or 2 budgets if Trump, Vance, the Republicans' economic policy goes ahead. We are going to be down billions and billions of pounds. And where are we going to find that money? Our leaders have put us on a collision course with America. And if you read the programme for government, we've nailed our colours to the EU mast of their policies. And yet Trump and Vance have said the EU policies aren't working.
But that's my point. We don't have to do that. We can still be very active and supportive members of the EU if we just pipe down a little bit and still enjoy a good relationship with the United States. We don't have to morally sell ourselves out. We just have to pipe down a little bit.
And this is the Icarus syndrome that Michael Martin and Leo Varadkar and Simon Harris have suffered from. They think they're bigger than they are. And they're going to bring our country down into a tump. We're going to land with a tump because of their leadership. But you know something, Greg? There's something wonderful about that. It might be seen as negative and pessimistic. But you know what? Maybe if we do land with a tump, we can then grow out of our authentic values and who we are, a peacekeeping, loving people with good family values. We've lost our values, Greg. We've lost what was Ireland. And everybody out in your show knows this. Look at the last referendum. And let's go back to that. You know, when they wanted to remove the word mother, woman, family, and the people of Donegal, 84% of us said, no, we're not doing that because these values are who we are. And the values that we have, that we talk about.
I get you. I'm not sure that that's showing our underbelly. I think that's all part of a pushback on wokeism and progression, which as well. Well, maybe the one and the same. I don't know.
I understand, and there's various different interpretations. But here's the point, Greg. What is discussed at the kitchen table should be discussed at the cabinet table. But what we have is the cabinet table forcing their agenda onto our kitchen table. And this is why there's a disjunction between our politicians and us.
Words and the internet and social media is full of words are one thing. Votes are another. And that cabinet table was formed by people who went out and voted. So if people want change, the majority, a small minority of people, almost half of people who chose to speak and have an opinion and chat around that kitchen table need to vote. Because it's votes that make any difference. The reason Donald Trump is doing what he's doing now is because more than half of people voted for him. So you can't sit on your hands and opine on social media and then say, oh, it's not you. And then say, oh, things are terrible. Because those that went out and voted, people say, oh, we've had Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael for the last 100 years. Yeah, we live in a democracy, a hard-won democracy. They've been voted in. That's why they're there. They've been voted in. We don't live in a totalitarian society, dictatorship. The people voted.
Yes, I accept that. But what they voted for, maybe they felt there was no alternative. Maybe that it was the safest pair of hands. But I don't believe that they voted for the wokeism that they're pushing. I don't believe that they voted for us to be too arrogant in the world stage. I don't believe they voted for any of that. I think that our politicians, our leaders, the political elite, have taken these decisions upon themselves and have forced the agenda. People are simple. Politics is simple. And I don't want to get to localise that, but just take, for example, Pat the Cope, who came back into politics there, and he got a massive vote because he's a grassroots politician that meets people every day. And people voted for that. They didn't necessarily vote for what Fianna Fáil stands for, or their woke agenda, or their anti-family agenda, or whatever. But they voted for.
But that's not good either, potentially, if you are of a certain point of view, because that's not like, I'm not saying it's not a good thing, by the way. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but you're like, you want your cake, you want to eat your cake and still have it, which is the actual phrase. People misphrase it, but anyway, you want to eat your cake and still have it. So that is that because you're voting for a person, grassroots, you're not thinking of who's going to end up in government.
And that's why I've said to you previously, Greg, that our system of government needs to change. All right. Because we need a kind of an early. The Dáil has turned out to be a county council of the regions, but we need actually, and I've always said this to you before, you know, two two TDs per county. That's it. Keep the dial as it is, but have a higher, because they're not dealing with TD is dealt primarily. Their duty is to the Constitution and their lawmakers. But unfortunately, that's not their role, particularly here in Donegal. It's about getting streetlights, it's about getting grants, it's about family matters in hospital, it's about various different things that come to the politicians' door. So while they're doing that, they're not able to look at the national picture.
Okay.
So just think of what we're talking about, the economy in Letterkenny. You have Optum, you have Zeus, you have Tata. These are all American companies based in Letterkenny and have satellites in other areas in Gweedore and in Buncrana.
But it's very, I get where you're coming from, but there also is a massive advantage from an American company having one foot in Europe, and we are the only English country, English-speaking country in Europe. I do get where you're coming from, but I do think they've got a capacity to absorb some of the tariffs. In fairness, Donald Trump doesn't actually really understand VAT, and that he simply doesn't understand VAT. He thinks it's a tariff, right? And I'm not saying that before the Trump people get angry, but he doesn't. I get where you're coming from. But we also have a lot of advantages for these American companies, and I'll give the last word to you in 30 seconds, Joe, if you don't mind, because we've been rattling on for half an hour.
Yeah, well, it's brilliant that we're having the conversation. I think there's a delusional paranoia by our politicians, particularly our political elite. I think we need to have a conversation. It's not about ideology and whether you're ideologically aligned with Trump or not. We have to deal with the reality. And how we deal with the reality is that we face up to the facts that our country is not in a good place. And I think that we need to really snap out of it. It might be too late. And we're going to maybe suffer because of the poor leadership that we've been given. But look, hope springs eternal, and we can only hope.
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
sense.
I can't pretend to be super knowledgeable. I actually don't even know. I think I have a basic understanding of what's right and wrong. But what's happening at the moment is we have a situation whereby we very, very realistically could have a peace in the Middle East. What kind of peace it is, I don't know. An end to the war in the Ukraine. I find it very hard to sit in the west coast of Ireland with two fighting aged kids and sort of say, no, the parents in Ukraine must continue to send their children to the meat grinder in East Ukraine. We don't really know it, but there's hundreds and thousands of young men primarily dying every single day. If that stops, I find it hard to sort of say, right, no, that shouldn't stop because of the big geopolitical sort of... For me, it comes down to... But maybe that's the wrong point of view. I don't know. But I can only I come at it as a parent. I don't know what the right thing is, but stopping the war seems the right thing because there's no way Ukraine has won, right? Putin was going to have Kyiv in 2-3 days, take over the country like he did Crimea. That didn't happen. They held him back to where they held him back. They have won. Putin has a victory. Yeah. He's got more of the land from Ukraine. Okay, both of them can claim a victory. I can't speak on behalf of the Ukrainian people, but I can speak as a parent who couldn't in all consciousness say, yes, carry on fighting, whilst people of the age of my boys are sent out to be slaughtered, literally just cannon fodder. But I don't know if that's a morally just position, but that's just the way I feel. I don't understand it deeply enough to go beyond that, Joe.
Well, think of all the many Ukrainians that have fled their country that don't want to be part of this war, the men of Ukraine, and you can't blame them. I personally don't believe, and history will write that this was not a war between Ukraine and Russia. This was a failure by diplomatic relationships, particularly at the feet of the EU. And I think history will prove me correct on that regard. The EU have treated Russia very poorly. And there's a lot to be done on the other side of this war if it's resolved. Yeah,
and Ukraine did well to protect Kyiv, but at the end of the day, very quickly, it became a war of the West versus Russia in East Ukraine. Dr. Joe Kelly is all...
A lot of people suffered.
I mean, hundreds of thousands of people, and those maimed, PTSD. You talk about the amount of body bags, but the amount of people without limbs, lost sight, as I say, post-traumatic stress disorder, which can create serious problems. And I don't think sometimes when people come into the country that's factored in. All right, then. Thanks very much, Dr. Joe Kelly, 086 60 25,000. What do you think of what I had to say? It's a convo. I don't agree with anything Joe said, so I don't want people to think that I'm being anti-government or I think the government speaks too much. It's a convo with Dr. Joe, and I know you're intelligent enough to understand how this show goes. It's just to have a conversation with him, get different points of views out there as well.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Let's go!
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory comes to Greenan Theatre, Letterkenny, Tuesday, March the 4th to March the 8th, 8 p.m. nightly. Come and see Willy Wonka's magical and mysterious factory, along with young Charlie Bucket and 4 other golden ticket holders. Letterkenny Musical Society's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory at Greenan Theatre, Letterkenny, March the 4th to March the 8th. Get your golden tickets now.
For strong, unique, weather-resistant homes, choose Seadrill Exteriors. Our fibre cement roof slates and wall cladding ranges are built to last for generations, exceeding EU quality standards. Members of Guaranteed Irish, our products are locally made and beautifully designed, offering long-term peace of mind. Visit Seadrill.ie. Seadrill Exteriors. Strength guaranteed.
Are you looking for a powerful, high-performance laptop? Think green and save big with Ben Sweeney Euronics. Discover refurbished Lenovo ThinkPads that look and feel like new with Windows 11 pre-installed and a rock-solid 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. Why pay full price when you can save up to 70% and do your part for the planet by choosing sustainable tech? Find yours today at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, and the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Make perfect pancakes every time with Dunnes Stores. Whip up a batch with fresh eggs, 6 for €1.39. Or choose an 8-pack of large buttermilk pancakes, just €2.50. Then add your favourite toppings like a sprinkle of sugar with 49-cent lemons or chocolate and hazelnut spread for a 100-gram jar, only €1.50. And for that finishing touch, you can save at the till with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Open your future by attending Northwest Regional College Open Days. This is the opportunity to visit your local campus and tour the fabulous facilities, sample the college experience and apply for your course. Running from 12 noon each day beginning 25th of February, Strabane campus, 26th of February, Strand Road and Springtown campuses, and 27th of February, Limavady and Greystone campuses. Register online to attend for your chance to win a high-spec laptop. Northwest Regional College Open Days. From here to career.
Hello, Jedward speaking. Sorry, Edward speaking.
Hey bro, I'm glad you picked up.
Who is this?
It's me, John. I'm literally outside in the landing.
I don't know any Sean. Lose my number. Hello?
Edward, don't hang up. I'm sorry for saying a handyman could fix the gas boiler. Please forgive.
Always use a registered gas installer, or you could risk everything. Find one at rgi.ie.
Milford Tiles, Milford Retail Park. Tiles, bathware and wood flooring. The best quality and value in the Northwest. Fully stocked and ready to go. Fitters and delivery available. 10% off for Mica affected customers. Don't forget to ask about our 5-day bathroom fit out. Call Milford Tiles on 083 091 0707.
Octavia, Fabia, Scala, Superb, Kamiq, Karoq, Enyaq, Kodiaq, petrol, diesel, plug-in hybrid, electric, HVO. So much choice, but not that much time. Whatever 251 Skoda you choose, you should order it now, because even though we have a wide range, they're selling fast. See what stock is left at skoda.ie and order yours today.
Skoda. Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396.
Gather your girls for a fun-filled Galentine's night out at the Villa Rose Hotel and Spa Ballybuffet on February 22nd. Shake up cocktails, enjoy delicious pizza and celebrate friendship in style. Tickets from €30 available on Eventbrite or relax in the comfort of an overnight package available to book online at villarose.ie.
Now we're joined in studio by Mary. Herlihy, who is of the Donegal Women's Centre, in fact, the centre manager. Thank you so much for calling up and having a chat with us.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you for having me.
And it's on a fantastic milestone. This year, the Donegal Women's Centre is celebrating 35 years of improving the lives of women in Donegal. So, can you give us a little bit of history about its establishment, and I suppose what gap maybe the volunteers thought was there that needed filling?
Yeah, it goes right back to 1987, where there was an identified need.
Second. That was 35 years ago.
I know.
Sorry. Sorry.
It's a bit scary.
No,
yeah.
But anyway, there was an identified need.
Yeah, so what happened was, women got together and realised actually that the issue at the time was around contraception mainly. Mm-hmm. And it was that they were going to their own GPs, and because of different reasons and the laws and all of that at the time, they couldn't get their own preferred choice of contraception. So that's where it started from. And then there was a seminar with the HSE, and about 200 women attended out in what was the Ballyreen Hotel at the time, which is now the Mount Errigal, right, and looked at approaching women's health in a holistic point of view. You know, it wasn't just medical, it wasn't just physical, it wasn't just mental health. It was a combination of everything, and what could be done in the county to recognise that and then to move it forward and to meet what women actually needed. So the HSE were one of the first funders to come on board with that and start funding some of the services. So they started with some programmes, confidence building, and just kind of basic programmes just to get women together, get women talking.
And how important would it have been at the time? Because, it seems like we were always where we're at now, but the 80s was a different period of time. So how significant was it that it was women providing this for women? I mean, I'm not saying it was revolutionary, right? But there just was nothing like that there.
There wasn't. And in a way, there's nothing like the Women's Centre in Ireland. There's nothing specific. There's bits and pieces, and there's our women's centres, but nothing like what we provide. So at that time, it was really forward thinking. From the women, to be able to voice what their concerns were, to be able to voice what their needs were, and for that to be heard.
Yeah, and it's evident that the service has grown matched to the service users, the experience of that. But initially, as you mentioned there, and with the backing of the HSE, they established a family planning clinic.
Yeah.
So why was that significant at that time?
Because women were going to GPs but not getting their preferred choice of contraception.
So there was an ideological situation in the local practice potentially.
Correct. And there were, maybe GPs weren't trained. It went against their own belief system. And the cost of it was prohibited. Women were living in small areas. They knew their GP. There was the whole thing about husbands knowing about it. So it was that sense they didn't have their own space. They didn't have a place where they could go, feel safe and get and have a choice. It came down to choice. Yeah. And that's where the clinic first stepped in. So the first clinic was the 6th of April in 1989. And we actually still have the clinic administrator with us from that day.
Obviously, sometimes it can be a control thing or whatever. People try and keep people down, right? They come up with different arguments as to why it might be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But often might be, we don't need women making these decisions for themselves, do we?
Yeah.
Was there much of an obvious resistance to it, either public or privately, do you think, at that time?
I think at the time it was okay because it wasn't... it was done very carefully. It was done very thoughtfully. They had the backing of the HSE or the... whatever their name,
Northwestern
Health Board, at the time. So it was all done very, very well and very well planned out. So it wasn't that a group of women went off kind of rogue and,
yes, I know,
and got doctors, and it was done, methodically and in line with policies at the time. I think at different stages there has probably been a little backlash around the abortion part of it because we are pro-choice. So we would support a woman in whatever choice she makes. So there has been known to be a little bit of backlash on that. But on the main, I think it's been seen as very positive, very progressive. And having the backing of, the likes of the HSE and other funders gives it credence, in the fact that we're there since 1987.
And at the end of the day, whether people are liking it or not, it's exercising the will of the people. This did go to a
that's it,
to a vote. And as I say, there's a lot of opposition to it, and a lot of people say that it's not what they voted for that's there now, but this is the way it works.
But that's
so
it.
We have to bridge, because of time, 35 years, right? So we've got a base, very basic outline of how it all began. and how quickly it became, you know, an important resource for women. Fast forward now, and the range of supports, some of them are probably more needed now than they ever were. So talk us through some of the services and supports you provide now.
Yeah, so coming from, you know, just being funded by Family Planning Clinic, right up to today, we provide domestic abuse, trauma and psychotherapy and counselling service for women who have experienced or witnessed or are experiencing domestic abuse in their lives. And that's for women at any stage of their journey, and you know, or who have been impacted in any way around domestic abuse, and that's funded by Coon. Then we have the Young Women's Sexual Health Clinic, and that's funded by HSE Health and Wellbeing National.
Just linking it back to the other thing, and some people might not even like this either, but you know, that is also about maybe preventing having to discuss abortion services with people, and also maintaining people's good sexual health.
Yeah, absolutely. And in some ways we haven't moved quite on, because we're there to bridge that gap, you know, between the GP and the doctor, because some women go to their GPs and there's still a reluctance to provide their chosen method of contraception, and that's where the Women's Centre steps in. So in some ways, you know, there hasn't been a lot of progress. And the Young Women's Clinic was a good example of that, where young women felt they couldn't go to their GPs. It's like going back again to the 1980s and being that judged and not getting their method of choice that they want. So, you know, we're there over 10 years with the clinic now at this stage, and it's, you know, full to capacity every week.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you about, the level of engagement, okay? Because how busy are the services? You know, how in demand are they? Like, say, for instance, in terms of domestic violence, very sadly, was it 65,000 contacts last year? Not your centre alone, but across the country. I mean, there's 52 weeks in the year. You know,
there's not a week that goes by that we don't get. And in fact, even we've noticed even since Christmas that the level of complexity has increased, the level of violence has increased.
What's driving that change?
There's a lot of factors. A lot of it is social media. A lot of it is to do with access to porn. A lot of it is it's all power and control of violence. It's gender-based violence of men against women predominantly. And I know there's arguments around, you know, men and women and all of that, but it's 1 in 4 women, you know, is being affected by domestic abuse. And there's the lives that we're living in at the moment, or the world that we're living in at the moment, and it's different attitudes. You know, you've got Andrew Tate, you've got Donald Trump, you know, you've got so many different characters, and young men seem to be latching on to these ideals, and it's spreading. And you've got peer pressure between boys and between men, and just what's become acceptable, what's become normal, as they see.
And also too, like the opposite of your Andrew Tate, for an example, is not, you know, weakling little men who aren't weak. You know, men can exert their masculinity or feel men, but do so by being respectful of women.
Absolutely.
So you can be a man, do whatever you want to do, but you don't have to slap or control a woman.
That's it. And
you know, and it doesn't make you any less of a man.
Absolutely not.
You know, so the opposite of Andrew Tate, oh, you're all very woke and this is that. That's not it. No. It's about what is right and what is right. Respect for someone, regardless of their gender. But also about not being violent or controlling. Coercively or otherwise of another individual.
And that's what it comes down to. It's not either or, you know, and that's where the danger that we're going into. It's that you're either one or the other.
That's precisely why, even if it can do it at a local level,
that's
it. You know, Kamala Harris is, just to use America, Kamala Harris is everything that you want,
that's
right?
It.
And Donald Trump is everything you hate. That's ridiculous. You know, there is definitely somewhere in the middle that we can all live and be respectful and grow as people. And not have our mums, our sisters, our daughters go through this type of abusive relationship.
And
or
ours,
men, where that does exist, which it does exist, by the way, and more so in terms of the domestic violence, which can be withholding access to children, it can be putting someone down, controlling them in that way. There's many men guilty of that as well. Many men are victims of that as well. Let's not get it wrong, but we're also talking about the physical side of things, which is primarily women.
That's it. And it is, I think that's the work that we're all trying to do, is educate each other, educate women to say, look, this behaviour from your partner or your son or your daughter or whoever isn't acceptable. And then it is to engage with men and say, look, you know, it's not one or the other. It's, you know, this is what constitutes a healthy relationship.
So in terms of the Donegal Women's Centre, where are you based and how do people come across you, right? Because, I mean, often services like this, they're signposted by GPs, and I'm not saying this isn't, but you talked about scenarios whereby, you know, maybe a woman might want to come to you first, right? So how are they finding about you? Is it a pamphlet in the waiting room of a GP's, or what's going on?
Yeah. At the moment, we're really active on our social media, all our social media platforms, from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we also have a website, and a lot of work will be done on the website over the coming months to update that. We are located on the Port Road, and we're directly across from On Green and Theatre, and it's an open door policy. Anybody can walk in and say, "I've no idea what you do. Tell me." Yes. You know, we have leaflets there. We have great staff that will go through all the services of the centre. You know, and we hear steady, "I never know what you do. I didn't know there was a women's centre.
Well, I thought you only did women, not influence women."
We're there to support women, and that's a really good point. We're not there to say you should do this or you should do that.
Not an ideology there.
Not at all. It's there to listen. You know, we have a listening service. We have a generic counselling service. It is there to listen to whatever issues the women brings in.
With the diversity that's in Letterkenny, are you seeing a diversity of clientele? Clientele? I don't know how you would describe it. It sounds very clinical, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, women coming in are coming from right across. We have programmes for the IPAS participants, you know, for any woman here on living in IPAS or emergency accommodation. So it's right across all nations of the world. So,
Mary, thank you so much for calling up. Check out the socials, very active there. Work being done on the website as well, which is great. 35 years in the bag, as I say, 87. I can't believe it's
I know.
that long ago.
Just before I go, Greg, I suppose just to take the opportunity while I have it, to thank all our staff, you know, our current staff and any staff member over the years since we first opened the doors. You know, without them, there wouldn't be a centre. All our volunteers, our hundreds of volunteers, the centre wouldn't run without our volunteers. We really depend on them. Again, it's our current team of fab volunteers and all our previous volunteers as well. Our board of directors from day one, you know, they have just been instrumental in guiding us to where we are today. We have a great current board of directors. And just to thank everybody that has given something in some shape or form to the centre, where it's come in delivering a course or, you know, whatever that is, because there's too many. I'm not going to start naming names, there's too many. But just everybody who's contributed since the very first day, you know, all our funders as well. Without them, we couldn't open the doors in the morning. And most of all to the public for supporting us, you know, for keeping us there, keeping us on our toes, you know, coming in, taking that chance of making the first phone call, because the first phone call, just trusting us, exactly. You know, and obviously anybody who's raised money for us or has given us any donations over the years, again, all very much appreciated. All stay in the county and all stays with the Women's Centre.
Mary, it's not a one and done. We talk regularly and we will again, and we really love you calling up. Thank you so very much for that. That's Mary Hurley there. Mary Hurley there, the centre manager at the Donegal Women's Centre. I'll be back with the weather and a goodbye.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
The Dolan family present Remembering Joe, a celebration of the life of Joe Dolan at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny, this Saturday, 22nd of February. Tickets priced at €30 and are available from the hotel reception, with overnight packages also available. That's this Saturday at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny.
Restex Beds, celebrating 50 incredible years of helping you dream better, sleep deeper and wake up refreshed. For half a century, we've been your trusted partner in comfort and innovation. And now, introducing the new Glenveigh mattress, designed with cutting-edge technology for ultimate support and luxurious comfort. It's the perfect way to celebrate our golden anniversary with the best sleep of your life. Visit Restex Beds today and experience 50 years of excellence. Restex Beds. Leave the rest to us.
Building a new home? Discover next generation comfort with the new award-winning Grant Airona R290 heat pump, delivering exceptional performance with quiet operation. The Grant Airona R290, heating for the future. Think heating, think Grant. Visit grant.ie.
Nutrius XL Yo with Lamb and Nutrius Yo with Lamb Crunch are both formulated to ensure a vigorous lamb and excellent milk yield. Avail of our lambing season offer: 25 kg bags, buy 10 get 1 free, and €15 off per tonne in bulk. Available at your local Homeland store, or contact your farm commercial specialist. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
Discover the new Nissan range at iMotors. If it's design you're after, stand out from the crowd with the next generation Nissan Juke. Available in both petrol and hybrid. The Nissan Qashqai is available as a petrol or e-power hybrid, giving you that electric feel without plugging in. Need more space? The Nissan X-Trail offers 7 seats and comes as an e-power hybrid. And for those ready to go green, the Nissan Ariya and Leaf are fully electric. Available now for a test drive. Just call into our showroom in Letterkenny or Malin today.
iMotors, fearless generation.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Our new season special occasion wear range is here. Visit us to explore our extensive dress collection in store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
And it's going to be a very quick goodbye. Sunny spells and scattered showers for the afternoon. The showers will become less frequent by evening and mostly dry. The highest temperatures then 11 to 13 degrees and fresh and gusty southwest winds. Thanks so much. It's been a busy show. We're back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with the Friday panel. If there's a topic you want to discuss, send it in to us. We welcome your suggestions.